Good evening there, everybody. This is Boxing Realist here, and today we will be doing a live. Let me check the audio very quickly, and then I have to, oh, excuse me. I have to, then I'll be going through my recent comments. I said that I was going to be doing a live soon in order to respond to some comments. I believe that I told Mr. Boxing Expert that let me just make sure the volume is all set up here. Let me make sure the comments are on as well. Because comments all always get funky with this. I don't know what it is. Let me see though. We'll start talking about the conversation here in a second. I need to see if my audio is working. Just hold on real quick. I am not seeing it on here, so let me check on the computer. And if my audio is good, then we're just gonna get straight into the conversation, guys. If you guys can hear me, let me know. I'm not quite sure as of yet. Let me see. Maybe my audio is not on there. Let's see. Hold on. Hold on one sec, everybody. Is my audio on there? Nope. All right. That muted it. Let me see. Hold on. Okay, no, we're good. We are good, everybody. Okay, thank you very much. All right, so let's get straight into the conversation. So Oleksandr Usyk obviously had. Thank you, Mr. Jaime Raiden. Thank you very much. They always get finicky, so I appreciate that, my man. Thank you. We're here to talk about the most recent conversation, obviously, with Mr. Oleksandr Usyk. We all know his most recent performance over Mr. Rico Verhoeven, the kickboxer that transitioned into that of boxing. No other way to put it. Obviously, it was a shit performance. A lot of people now, of course, are going after Oleksandr Usyk. Of course, that was something that was predicted, especially a lot of the LDBC and new media guys. And now the question is, was Oleksandr Usyk's, was his legacy affected by this? Meaning, of course, obviously, is he now lesser in terms of the all-time great conversations? Is he now a lesser heavyweight? Overall, because of this, we're going to get straight into this. My answer, and I've already stated this, his ranking does not change for me, at least in terms of the all-time greats, because of what he's just accomplished, period. Oleksandr Usyk is one of the most accomplished, not just fighters ever, but even one of the more accomplished heavyweights ever. And I think that does need to be discussed. But once again, we're going to be reacting to some of these comments here. I'm going to take a look at one of my most recent videos, actually my most recent video before this, and then we'll be talking about some of the comments here. So let's just take a look. So once again, question is Oleksandr Usyk's legacy ruined? Is he overrated as a fighter? Let's take a look. So this first comment, let's see. So this person, Ezekiel Lopez, I believe I've had him commenting on my channel. Mr. Jaime says, I have Rico #1 on my pound per pound list. That's a very good selection, my man. Obviously, after a performance like that, I think he's got to be entered at #1, obviously. No belts, 1-1. It's the obvious choice. But let's see. Machado John Boxing says Tyson Fury seems set to meet former professional footballers Zlatan Ibrahimovic as his warm-up fight before. What the fuck? Good lord. Yeah, you fucking never know with Tyson Fury, man. I don't know what the hell that man's up to. Good lord. Let's see. That's funny though. Usyk would probably destroy Rico in a rematch, to be honest. If they are going to do that, Usyk needs to just fight either Cabello or Itama first, then fight Rico last as a retirement fight. He's not getting any younger. I would kind of agree with that. Here's the first question that we all need to talk about. Does anyone that has a logical mindset, does anyone truly believe that Oleksandr Usyk, that he was truly at his best? I think that's the first thing that we need to ask. And I think the obvious answer is no. The man looked fat around the midsection and around his love handles. I've never seen Oleksandr Usyk look that out of shape. There was no jab from him whatsoever. Some of the only faults in his style, were kind of there, but he was able to adapt around it. One fault that Usyk does have is kind of sometimes he'll just get in that high guard and kind of deflect shots instead of returning fire at times. But just basic counters he was not able to land. I actually thought he did relatively well, kind of adjusting to that, ferocity and the aggression by Rico. But to me, it was obvious that he did not train for this fight at all. And of course, people are saying, well, he got exposed. He got this. Well, it's hard for me to say that he got exposed when he clearly wasn't in his best form. To me, that would be like saying Muhammad Ali got exposed against Larry Holmes because he just was nowhere near in his same condition. And I think that's fairly obvious here. But in terms of the Caballero or Itama fight, I think Caballero is the fight to make next. That's a very interesting fight because out of any, and I'll get to your guys' comments in the live real quick after this. Just don't want to forget any of my points. The Caballero fight is going to be a very interesting fight because that is a fight that I don't know is 100% winnable. If Usyk comes in at his best, that is a very winnable fight, but it's also a very losable fight. If Usyk looks like he did in the Rico fight, it's not even competitive. He'll lose hands fucking down. It's not even a question. But I agree that the Caballero fight needs to happen next. As for this talk of Usyk ducking contenders, all this other stuff, I mean, after you fight Tyson Fury, AJ Anthony Joshua, and Danny Dubois, literally for all your last 6 fights, other than Rico, who obviously was the 7th, before Rico, all your 6 fights have been against pretty much the best 3 heavyweights in the world of the past several years. I mean, I think it's fine that you take at least one fight. Now, if he continues not fighting those guys, then I understand. But that's why I say this narrative, especially from this video that I reviewed from Dante, when you're just going immediately in saying that Usyk is avoiding these guys, I think it's just a little bit disrespectful after all the stuff he's done. Now, if he's a Gervonta Tank Davis, I get it. Or maybe a Canelo when he didn't fight Benavidez or David Morrell, I also kind of understand. But to me, that tells me that you kind of have an agenda just to go immediately in and say that he's just avoiding everybody when he's just done so much, especially for being so small for the heavyweight division. But let's see. Diaper Dandy 33, nice name. He says Usyk at 233 looks sluggish. Well, I agree because I don't think he was really supposed to be there. I mean, I think it's pretty evident once again from anyone that knows what they're watching that Usyk was not at peak form there. He was at the highest weight that he ever had been. I mean, one would argue that maybe because Rico was just such a heavy and big fighter, but we never seen Usyk get as heavy as for AJ, someone that had like a 20-pound weight advantage and was a legit boxer. And we also didn't see it for Fury in either fight. He retained his speed. So what that's pretty much telling me is that he really didn't take this fight as seriously. I mean, maybe if one wanted to argue the possibility that he wanted to make more of a show of it and possibly get the knockout, but I don't see that. I think it's fairly obvious, especially, I mean, with the way that Usyk looked, I've never seen him look that out of shape. I've also never seen him breathe as heavy as what he did. He looked more exhausted by the 5th round than what I've ever seen him. I've never seen him look that tired in a fight. And even in the Tyson Fury fights, where both of those fights were relatively taxing, or the AJ Anthony Joshua fights where he had to move around a lot, or even the Danny Dubois fights, I've never seen him look that tired ever. Even in some of his cruiserweight fights, never seen him look that tired. So that's why I say it's hard for me to just say that he got exposed, because for someone to get exposed, in my view, you have to be at a relative good form. And I think Usyk was literally at his worst here. I don't think it's even a conversation. But anyway, Diaper Dandy says time may have caught up. I mean, it's possible. He's 39 years old. He's closer to 40 than what he's not. So, I mean, obviously, that makes sense. I do think he has slowed down a little teeny tiny bit. I mean, probably a little bit more than a tiny bit. He is near 40, so I think he has slowed down. That's a part of it. I also just think Usyk didn't take this fight seriously. Like, if Usyk came back and if he were to completely outbox Caballero, wouldn't be surprised. He was so terrible in this fight, just from everything, from conditioning to movement to skills. He was so fucking awful in this fight, just all around. That's why I have to say there's no fucking way he was at peak form here. But anyway, let's read some of the comments here. Usyk versus Caballero 50-50 fight. If they're both at peak form, yeah, it is. That's a fantastic fight. Let's see. Tiffany Cook says that's not a good comparison. Ali, he's talking about when I compared Usyk versus Rico versus Ali versus Larry Holmes. That's not a good comparison. Ali had over 60 fights compared to Usyk. And why y'all always trying to compare black fighters? Why y'all can't compare your whites to other whites or Latino? Shit weird to me. Well, I mean, a lot of people compare Ali, of course, or like to black fighters because obviously they're looked at as the best. I mean, this is going to happen in all sports. Just like, if you have NFL football, people aren't going to compare Patrick Mahomes to other black quarterbacks just because he's a black quarterback. They're not going to just compare him to Warren Moon and Russell Wilson. They're going to compare him to guys like Tom Brady. And to be fair, Usyk deserves to be in conversations like that. I'm not going to say that he's quite as great as someone like an Ali because I don't think his resume is as extensive. But in terms of all-around skill set, in terms of what he's accomplished, he's into the top 20 conversation, in my view, at the very least, at least of the past 50 years. No doubt about it in my personal view. So, I mean, just my view of it. But I understand what you're saying. But my point really was that Ali clearly was at a worse form against Larry Holmes. And obviously Larry is an all-time level boxer, obviously, but that's more of a surface level comparison. That's more like me just saying that Usyk was clearly at a worse there. Obviously the situation was different. Usyk, I don't think is completely washed up here. I just think that he looked washed up, but I think it's just because he didn't take care of himself in training. That's the reason why. So the comparison is just completely because of how they looked standpoint. But anyway, Andy U says, I would say yes. How far I can rank Usyk has dropped, but he's still great. He fought a lot of good competition, and I wouldn't have blamed for all more softer touches in his resume. I'm not gonna put him down. I understand if you would. To me, it's just hard to because this is the point that I'll bring up, and I'm also going to mention this. This is pretty much the only embarrassing thing I've ever seen of Usyk's career. And I think the reason why we have to give Usyk so much credit is because you go up to heavyweight and you're able to do something not even Evander Holyfield was able to do, who was probably not as all-around skilled as Usyk. And I know that this is going to ruffle a lot of feathers there. If you take a look at Holyfield, he got hit quite a bit in a lot of his fights. And he was a tremendously skilled fighter. But there's a reason why he got beaten so badly by guys by Lennox Lewis or Riddick Bowe, and also even a Michael Moore at one point in time. And he damn near got knocked out by a guy in Burt Cooper who was kind of a journeyman. This is my thing about Usyk. Usyk, other than this one fight where I think it's very obvious that he did not train at all in terms of taking this fight seriously. He clearly was fat. He clearly was out of shape. I mean, he looked the way that Buster Douglas looked in the fucking Evander Holyfield fight. I mean, there are certain guys where you can tell they trained super hard for a fight, and then another fight you can tell they just did not. They did not do it. And Usyk is a guy that usually is very disciplined, but he was not for this fight, and I think that is fairly obvious. So to me, it's like, well, does this fight really take away from the wins that he has over Fury, from AJ, from Dubois, and his cruiserweight division? I just don't think it does. And when I especially also take a look at the other heavyweights, are we gonna put Lennox Lewis away from the greatest of all time conversation because he lost to two guys he never should have? Now, that being stated, of course, it's completely fair to say that this is different because this is a kickboxer. That being stated, I think that it is somewhat logical to look at this a little bit differently because Rico, first of all, was a lot better than what we thought he was going to be. He wasn't a master in there, but he was 20 plus pounds bigger than Usyk. He was someone that actually had a decent jab, someone overall that had a great fake counter right hand, and someone overall that had a lot fucking better stamina than what we thought. This is probably the best transition I've ever seen for a fighter from either MMA or kickboxing going into boxing. So that's the first point that I'll make. He also was a lot bigger than Usyk. And I think it's fairly obvious that Usyk did not train. This was it's very similar to the Fury and Ngannou situation. I also thought that Fury did not take Ngannou very seriously. And I think it was very obvious in that fight. And then his next fight against Usyk, he performed a lot better, although he still, very obviously lost. But my point is this. Lennox Lewis lost to Hassan Rahman and Oliver McCall. Neither of those guys would be all-time great fighters. I don't even think either of them would be great fighters. Oliver McCall certainly would not be. Hassan Rahman maybe because he has a couple of good wins. Here's my point. Usyk was able to beat the Fury of his era. He was also able to beat the AJ of his era. Now, certain people, of course, would say, well, those guys aren't that talented. Well, that's not true. I mean, if you want to state that AJ and Fury are not quite as talented as, say, like a Lennox Lewis or something like that, sure, you can say that. AJ especially because he's a bit robotic in his movements and our stuff like that. I'll get to the every other person's comments, by the way. I'm just, ramble on a lot, trying to get my points across. But that being stated, Lennox Lewis does have those two losses. But it doesn't take away from the wins he has over Vitaly Klitschko, over Evander. I'm not going to count Mike Tyson as much because Mike was kind of done by the time Lewis fought him, although he obviously would have beat him, I think, anyway, even if it would have been in their prime. He also has wins over David Tua. He also has wins over Tommy Morrison and other stuff like that. And to be fair, Lewis had a little bit of a size advantage over most of those guys. I'm not going to take much away from him. I still think he's a great fighter, and he still did beat some guys with similar size. Usyk has beaten most guys, especially at the heavyweight. Not most. Every guy at the heavyweight division has been decently bigger than him, whether in terms of weight or even height and reach. And he's pretty much clearly outboxed them, other than this one fight where I think it was fairly obvious he was completely out of shape and did not take this seriously. So am I just going to completely derank Usyk where he was? I mean, if he would have lost this fight, I would have. But he won this fight, and I think fairly, this is a question you have to ask. If a rematch were to happen, do you think that this fight is anywhere near as competitive? And if the answer is no, then I think we have our answer. That's the question. Because when we have AJ versus Usyk, for example, not a lot of people picked AJ to beat Usyk in a rematch. Not a lot of people picked, overall, when it comes down to it, I'm trying to think overall who else, or AJ to beat Usyk in a rematch. If you were to have certain fighters, and depending on who those people would bet on to win the rematch, that goes to tell you more than likely who they, how seriously they think that fighter took the first fight. And I think that people realize that if Usyk were to actually take this fight seriously, no one would really bet on Rico to win this fight. That's why I'm saying no one would, even if Rico beat someone over like a Cabello, no one would really care for the rematch. They'd still be calling for a Tama or something like that because Rico overall, they know that Usyk would more than likely destroy him in a rematch. Some people may think I'm going a little bit too far with that, but anyway. But let's continue. Diaper Danny says, Usyk, new head trainer as well. That's interesting. I heard that he had a new promoter. I didn't know that he had a new trainer. That could very well much be a factor if he does have a new trainer. That would be a huge deal, actually, because that could cause him to lose the fight. I'd have to do research on that. I did not know that he actually had a new trainer. Let me look that up actually really quickly. I believe you. I want to research it just for myself. Well, let's see. Let's see. Does Oleksandr Usyk, okay, I mean, that's not the question I'm looking for, but just to shortcut it, Oleksandr Usyk have a new trainer. Yes, Oleksandr Usyk has recently made adjustments to his coaching team, bringing in Igor Golub, however the fuck you say that name, as his head trainer following the departure of Yuri Tkachev. Oh boy, can't say that fucking name. All right. Usyk, who relies on collaborative training team managed by his camp, had Golub step in and lead to recent preparations. How long ago was this made? I mean, apparently it was. I mean, I'm seeing it on Reddit in May, so I mean, shit, it must have been a while ago. That can sometimes work for you or against you. In my personal view, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Especially if you're on the level of Usyk. That being stated, he probably can handle a certain amount of the stuff himself, but he's getting older. That's interesting that he would change his training team there. I'm a little bit curious as to why. Has taken over to focus heavily on modernizing Usyk's punch power and strategy. Wait a minute. Golub, a childhood friend and former amateur teammate of both Usyk and Lomachenko. Okay. That'll be interesting. I'm not sure about that. Yeah. Anyways. Manos 5071 says, ruin his legacy, LOL. What did he do? Crash into a daycare? In my opinion, he'll be all right. Yeah, I agree. I think that Usyk is going to be just fine in terms of his boxing legacy. Anyways, let's see. Ali versus Inoki, first crossover fight, 15th draw. Ali needed to go to the hospital for getting kicked in the legs. Yeah, I'm not going to compare that as much because that was almost a damn near MMA fight. I mean, Inoki, I think, was only allowed to be on his back and kick. Apparently, Ali had his legs fucked up bad in that fight to the point to where he had blood clots in both legs. There was even rumors that he may even have to amputate his legs. That wrestler kicked the shit out of his legs. Ali was done after that. He had no legs left. So I'm not going to compare it quite like that because obviously these guys were only allowed to box. So I think it's a bit of an unfair comparison. But that being stated, I think it's fairly excuse me. I think it's fairly obvious, when it comes down to it, that I think it's fairly obvious that when it comes down to it, that, a man that's 20 pounds bigger than you, and then on top of that, was a lot better than what you thought, and you didn't train seriously for this fight. I mean, obviously you're going to have problems if we wouldn't know all those factors coming into it. I think that we would have been like, maybe you would have had a little bit more issues. We just didn't, think it was going to be that bad. But anyways, excuse me. Manos 5071 says it only takes one fight to turn it around for boxing fans are fickle. Well, yeah, that's why they say you're only as good as your last fight. And to a degree, that's somewhat true. But that's, it happens with fans all the time. People, with Lennox Lewis, they call him the greatest now, but back then they were saying he wasn't fighting any competition against Vitaly Klitschko. They said you need to give him a rematch. He was ducking him, blah, 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 all sort of stuff, whatever. It happens with everybody. They're saying it with Muhammad Ali for a while until he got back in the ring with George Foreman and those guys. Then he was remembered better, and it kind of always happens like that. But anyway. Tiffany Cook, 5465 says people need to compare Julio Cesar Chavez, Roberto Duran, Joe Calzaghe, or Willie Pep. Well, here's my thing, because that's starting to sound like a like a LDBC new media pro blackity black point. And I'm not, trying to offend when I say that, but we need to make comparisons that are rightful, not just based off a race. So that to me, that's like a Bruce M.F. Vane point right there. Because that's something that he always says. He's like, well, you need to stop comparing Usyk to Ali and compare him to other white fighters. It's like, well, why would you do that if this Caucasian fighter or if this Latino fighter has nowhere near the accomplishments? Like that, to me, that doesn't make any sense. Like you wouldn't compare Canelo Alvarez and Tommy Morrison. You would compare Canelo Alvarez to someone like I'm not sure who else to compare him to, but you'd probably compare him to someone like a Bernard Hopkins or someone else like that. Like that to me, that doesn't make any sense. But anyway, 15 years training with elite coach. Yeah, I mean that's boxing. Yeah. Let's see. Andy U11 says. I mean, I'm not going to view Fury, HA, and Dubois now as a bum. I give Usyk full credit, but this does hurt, not because Rico wasn't skilled in the ring, but because Rico is kickboxing now, right? That's very true. I mean, to me, because Rico actually surprised me with so much of what he was actually able to do in the ring, his all-time great ranking to me isn't really affected because the way that I look at it, if Crawford, for example, if Terrence Bud Crawford were to get in the ring with an MMA fighter, let's just say he got in the ring with a guy that was 20 pounds bigger, a guy that was lengthier, and a guy that, excuse me, actually had a lot better technique than what we thought. Let's say he got in the ring with, I don't fucking know. Crawford's a bit bigger than what most people think. He probably is, let's say 165. Let's just say, I think he was like 170 for the Canelo fight a bit. And actually, he was probably more like 175. But let's just say like 165. So you'd have to go all the way up to 185. So that'll probably be like, what, a welterweight? So say if you were to get like a really good striker at welterweight, whoever that would be, I don't really know a welterweight that would really be able to compete with MMA, maybe kickboxing, I don't know. But if you were to have a really good MMA fighter from there, and Crawford very clearly was not in shape, he's older, he's 39 years old. And on top of that, this guy actually has like much better feet, a much better jab, a much better this than what we all anticipated. And I mean, Crawford was losing rounds, but then he gets the knockout. I mean, to me, it's not a huge deal because you don't lose the fight. And then on top of that, you clearly were not at peak form. Now, if you were at peak form, like to me, this is what I hold against certain fighters, especially when you get upset. First of all, if you actually lose the fight, that's first of all. So when Mike Tyson lost to Buster Douglas, even though I don't think that he was at peak form there, I do hold that a little bit against you because you officially lost the fight. Another thing I will hold against you is when you clearly were in good form and you still ended up losing the fight. So when Devin Haney lost to Ryan Garcia, even though Ryan Garcia was on steroids, I have to hold that a little bit against you, A, because you're on the SNAC program and I think you're on steroids anyway. But even if you weren't, Ryan Garcia was looked at as such a lowly boxer, and it's very clear that you, strategy-wise, could have did a little bit better. But fitness-wise, you looked in peak shape, and it was something that was really looked at to be one of the bigger fights of your career. So there was that. Another fight I will hold against someone was Broner versus Maidana because he took that fight seriously. Obviously, Broner was eventually exposed as a guy that, was not a grade, at least in my view. But yeah, there's that. Let me see overall what else we got here. I think I'm going to have to read some of the comments in my fucking comment section right here because I'm getting lost in these live comments. Sorry, everybody. But let's see. Okay, let me just go a little bit lower here, and then I'll respond to some of your guys. No, computer, I didn't say that. Come on. Don't copy everything on me now. There we go. Let's see. Come on. Go down. Why are you doing this to me? There we go. There we go. Perfect. Okay, I'll read some more of these comments in the live real quick, and then I'll move on. Tiffany Cook says Lewis didn't have size advantage over Klitschko or Michael Grant well, he kind of had a slight one, I think, over Galata, but I know what you mean. But Galata has been one of the more overrated contenders in years. And don't get it twisted. He was a very good contender, but pretty much anytime a guy would actually fight back against him, he pretty much mentally fucking broke down. He got his ass whooped against a Mike Tyson that really was older. And of course, the fight was recalled because I think Mike Tyson was kind of marijuana or something. But anyways, but yeah, Klitschko's, I mean, don't get it twisted. Lewis was a great, great fighter. Don't get it twisted. I just think that the size disadvantage that Usyk was at does have to be mentioned. It was absolutely humongous. But anyways, and when you're a heavyweight, size don't fucking matter. Well, that's not true. Size don't matter either. It's not like other weight classes, they heavyweights, right? But size still matters. Weight is still going to matter. And when you're Oleksandr Usyk, who's not a heavyweight really, I mean, he would have been a heavyweight back in the 90s, sure, because he's, I think they had the cruiserweight division back then. I think they had it for a while. I know they didn't always have it, but anyways, point overall is that heavyweight weight does matter because you still fight guys that can be at times 40 pounds bigger than you. And I don't care what people say, when you're an Oleksandr Usyk and you have a reach disadvantage and a weight disadvantage over guys like AJ and Fury who are looked at as A-grade level fighters, no, that shit matters. It definitely matters. So I can't agree at that point. I'm sorry. Let's see. If Rico can get in there with another top level, that helps. I mean, yeah, I would agree with that. Let's see. Boxing expert, my man, he says, we need to have better standards. Usyk, I don't know, it can be argued he ruined his legacy because that shouldn't be happening. It definitely shouldn't be happening, but once again, he did not lose the fight. And if this would have been, just for me personally, if this would have been another fighter, and they clearly would have taken the fight not seriously, I think like in this standard, then to me, it doesn't matter all that much. Like for example, like I'll just put it this way. Lennox Lewis, although he did lose to Hassan Rahman, I'm not going to hold it that much against him because I think it was fairly obvious that he underestimated Rahman in that first fight. In the rematch, we all seen what happened. And that's why I'm saying, does anyone truly believe here that Rico lasts probably more than several rounds against Usyk? I mean, to be honest, if Usyk takes the fight seriously in the rematch, I don't think the fight even goes past 4 rounds. So, I mean, that's just how it is. I think it's very obvious that Usyk did not take this fight seriously whatsoever. And that being stated, like I said, all the heavyweights of the history usually have at least 1 or 2 embarrassing things that happen to them. Obviously, once again, this is different because this was a kickboxing thing, so we're not going to pretend like that, Rico's an actual boxer here, but he did prove to be a lot better, and I thought it was very evident that Usyk did not train for this fight. So I mean, and on top of that, Usyk was not losing as many rounds as what, like, Mike Coppinger's scorecard was just fucking atrocious. But I mean, anyways, we'll see. And you could debate Rico's winning the fight, but it's not it was not legit 8 rounds to 2. That's the first thing. But let's see here. Rahman wasn't 1-0. That is a very good point. But like I said, I understand what you're saying. Obviously, it's better because Lewis lost to Rahman. I understand. But like I said, I think it's fairly obvious that Usyk here did not take this fight seriously. I think that if you were to put a lot of top-level boxers in against a guy that, clearly had a lot better skill than what you thought, was 20 pounds heavier than you, and on top of that, lengthier than you, and moved around a lot better, I think you probably see them have problems as well. So that's just the way that I view it. But anyway, let's see. Let's see. Dude, you are filled with excuses for overrated Usyk. Michael Moore, Spinks were light heavyweights who won the heavyweight title. Roy Jones was a 154-pounder who moved up to heavyweight. All 3 became champ. I thought Roy Jones actually started off at 160, at least in terms of a champ. But anyway, Usyk, in my view, can't really be overrated just because of what he's accomplished. Now, I do think this performance, of course, looks bad. But here's my thing. If Usyk comes back and destroys Caballero, is this basically going to be all over? Like, is this just going to affect Usyk for the rest of his career because of this one embarrassing thing? And like I said, every heavyweight has had one embarrassing thing at the very least. Mike Tyson lost to a 42-1 underdog in Buster Douglas. That shouldn't have happened. Now, I don't think that he took that fight seriously, but he legit lost that fight. Lennox Lewis lost to Oliver McCall. And I understand that Usyk losing, this fight potentially on the cards, but at least he won the fight. Lewis officially lost to Rahman, and he also officially lost to that of an Oliver McCall. we all know that Usyk has already beaten guys that have been way greater than either of those fighters in both Tyson Fury and AJ Anthony Joshua. And that's why to me, for this, unless he officially lost the fight, I can't just be like, well, obviously this affects his legacy. He's still undefeated. He's still the guy that clearly has beaten all the big names of his career. And he did not officially lose the fight. That's why, to me, I can't go that extra mile and say, well, it clearly affected his legacy. Because, I mean, if Usyk goes in there and destroys Rico Verhoeven, does anyone really care? Like, is it really going to set everything straight? I don't think people would care. I think it was obvious once again that Usyk didn't train for this fight. He looked completely out of shape, and he did not look anywhere near himself. But anyway, Usyk is a good, not great fighter in a garbage division. Well, I can't I can't agree with that. But once again, that's a lot of the LDBC and all that other stuff. But this guy's saying Chisora is terrible, and he gave Usyk all he could handle. Well, he's not terrible. He's just not a great fighter. He's like more of a top 20 guy. He does have a few good wins in his career, just not great. It was just we also got to remember that was like Usyk's second heavyweight fight. I mean, we gotta. Like I said, this is why we can't always go off of these standards, because I can take a look at Evander Holyfield and be like, well, he's not, because remember, people may not remember this. People thought Evander Holyfield was going to get busted up against Mike Tyson because of his performance over Burt Cooper. Burt Cooper ended up with like a career record of like 34-28. He damn near knocked his fucking head off in that fight. Evander was knocked down in that fight, damn near knocked out. That's how bad his performance was. Then later on, he gets knocked out against Riddick Bowe, surprises a lot of people, actually wins one of the fights. So I understand what you're saying, but we can't always just go off of those standards, because there's like Terrence Crawford, for example. There was a lot of people who said, look how bad he looked against Aegis Kaviaskis. Errol Spence is going to destroy him. We can't always just go off of that. There are certain fighters that A, first of all, are getting adjusted to the weight class, and B, fight to the level of their competition. And so, I mean, we can argue, well, he didn't fight that well. Yeah, right. But he also clearly beat AJ and Tyson Fury. So, I mean, to me, the Derek Chisora fight is pretty much null and void. That was Usyk's second heavyweight fight, first of all. And then in the biggest fights of his career, he ended up performing high anyway. So to me, that's like bringing up Lennox Lewis and saying, yeah, well, he did lose to Rahman in this, so I can't put him here. But it's like, to me, it don't matter all that much, because he still outperformed, Holyfield and Tua and Klitschko and all those guys. So to me, that's a point that isn't as relevant. I understand what you're saying, but that's kind of clearly trying to detract from him with a straw man argument. But anyway, Usyk was a great cruiserweight, not really a great heavyweight. Well, I can't agree with that. You can't beat Tyson Fury, AJ, and Danny Dubois, all guys that are looked at as A-grade level fighters, and not be, a great heavyweight. He has to be. And he's like, what, 2 times undisputed there? No, you have to be a great heavyweight there. But anyway, Tyson Fury was dropped 4 times by Bum and Wilderman and Francis. Well, yes, and I understand that. And Tyson Fury performed terribly against Francis Ngannou. But once again, I also think it was fairly obvious that he did not take that fight seriously. But say whatever you want to about Fury, whenever he needed to show up against, other than Oleksandr Usyk, he literally beat the shit out of any other A-grade level boxer he ever fought. And I've stated this. He destroyed Dillian White. He destroyed Vladimir Klitschko, or he basically embarrassed him. Klitschko could not touch him. And then Deontay Wilder was pretty much his most competitive fights. But the fight that I think that Fury was in best form, Wilder really couldn't touch him that much. And Wilder, I mean, listen, Wilder is not a great boxer by any means. We all know he has a lot of faults. He's not great defensively. He doesn't have the best feet, but he was someone that is very dangerous. And this is why I also say, like, you have fighters in history that are like Deontay Wilder. George Foreman was very similar to Deontay Wilder. And some people call him a top 10 to top 5 heavyweight of all time. George Foreman was not an A-grade skilled heavyweight. He was not. He was not someone that was on the skill level of an Oleksandr Usyk. And I'll tell you this, he wasn't even on the skill level of a Tyson Fury. It's not really even close. And I understand that certain people are like, what are you talking about? That's great. He was not on the same skill level as a Tyson Fury. They're not in the same class. If you take a look at George Foreman versus guys who could actually box, that could actually stand his power, Jimmy Young, overall, I believe his name was Tommy Morrison, although to be fair, he was older, and other guys, there's a reason why George Foreman a lot of times got outboxed. He was facing a lot of guys that could be very hittable, and guys overall that, once again, a lot of the times, to be honest with you, outsized. That's why when he fought guys like Muhammad Ali, he usually got outboxed. It is what it is. So when people say this stuff about, well, you can't say Usyk, no, Tyson Fury was a fairly skilled boxer. He knows how to jab. He knows how to maintain distance. I'm not claiming he's Muhammad Ali. I'm not claiming that, he's overall Lennox Lewis necessarily, but he is a greatly skilled heavyweight, especially for his size. And with his size, the fact that Usyk was able to get past that when Klitschko was not able to, when Wilder was not able to, when Dillian White was not able to, I think you have to give Usyk a lot of credit there. But anyways, let's see. Chisora gassed out after 4 rounds. Wasn't much of an issue for Usyk. I mean, he gave Usyk a tough fight, but I mean, it was a little bit overstated at how tough it actually was. But listen, Chisora is going to be a tough fight for anyone. He's kind of like the Sean Porter, although a lesser version. Sean Porter's a greater fighter, but Derek Chisora has like the blitzing, smothering type of style. Those styles are always more difficult sometimes in a style that actually tries to box with you. That's why Terrence Crawford, for example, like he had a tougher time with Sean Porter than what he did Errol Spence, because Spence at times actually tried to box with Crawford. Porter's not going to do that. He's going to go in there and usually really just bum rush you, and it's going to be difficult because they're going to try to get at you at all costs, and those guys are just exhausting the fight. Chisora, although he's slower-footed and nowhere near as skilled as Sean Porter, it's difficult, especially when obviously you're at a weight disadvantage, and that's like your second fight there. But right after that, he fought AJ and clearly outboxed him. So I have to give him heavyweight sucks. Pack it up. Usyk Chisora was a 115 and 113 fight. Well, like I said, you can like I said, I mean, you can state that all you want to. Like I said, I can go back to Muhammad Ali and say he lost to Ken Norton. Ken Norton's not an all-time great level heavyweight. He also lost to Leon Spinks. He's not an all-time great level heavyweight. He's 7-0. Does that take his wins against, Joe Frazier and George Foreman and Sonny? It doesn't take his wins away from those guys. So that's why I say it depends on what it is. Now, there are certain fighters, of course, that have lost big fights and also won big fights. And yeah, we do have to take a little bit away from their career. Like if you're an Oscar De La Hoya or a Sugar Shane Mosley, where you win big in the beginning of your career, but then the more we start to see you against elite level fighters, it's obvious that you can't handle, the skill set of some of those guys, then okay, sure. Then we could count that a little bit against you. But, when it comes to a Lewis, who clearly I think was not at his peak against Oliver McCall and probably did not take him seriously enough, needed to tighten up on certain skill sets. And then against Hassan Rahman, obviously underestimated him. He literally was laughing in his face, backing up with his hands down when he got chin. I'll tell you what, he took that rematch seriously, though, because he fucking clocked that man. That was one of the biggest, that was one of the most devastating knockouts I've ever seen in my life. That rematch, that overhand right, I thought he broke that man's neck. Goddamn. Anyway, Chisora was just swinging and missing. I mean, it could have been a 115, 113 fight, but to me, it doesn't matter that much. Crawford, in my view, had a 7 rounds to 5 fight against Madrimov. Madrimov is not even a top 30 pound-for-pound fighter. I mean, he's not even the best in his weight class. He wouldn't beat Virgil Ortiz or Duran Butsenis. I'm not even 100% sure he would beat Xander Zayas. So to me, you can bring up that point, but to me, it's not something that's going to stick. I mean, that's great. Like Floyd Mayweather had a 115, 113 fight, in my view, against Marcos Maidana. Does that make Marcos Maidana, does that make that division trash, or all the other opponents trash that Mayweather fought because he dominated Pacquiao more and dominated Cotto more? Like, that's me saying because Mayweather beat Cotto and Pacquiao and Marquez so dominantly, saying like, well, those guys obviously must have been shit because Maidana had like 4 or 5 losses in his career before he fought Floyd, and that was like a 115 to 113 foot. Like, to me, that just doesn't make any sense. So I'm sorry, I just can't stick to that point. But anyway, Mike Rodriguez says, yo, what's up, Boxer List? What's up, my man? What is up? You're talking about it. Many people forgot that Usyk got that message from his daughter calling an excuse, but I know that the attack that day was scared. Usyk definitely did look scared. I've never seen Usyk that shaken up, and I thought that at first it was his boxing. I think that it was because he just so ill prepared. But he was definitely worried. I've never seen Usyk that worried in a ring, even when he's been down. So something was mentally off with him. I think it could have been a combination. That he definitely did seem a little bit more rattled. I'll give you that. Mike Rodriguez 757 says if Usyk versus Ajay Kalbio happens next week, I don't know, because I need to see that Usyk is in peak form. If he's the same Usyk that I've seen against Danny Dubois both times, I think he has a great chance. Kalbio is someone that is extraordinarily talented. He's a great pressure fighter. He has a lot of size over Usyk weight-wise, not height and reach-wise, so Usyk still has a great chance to win. But weight-wise, that man is a fucking tank. He's a German tank. He is very skilled, defensively sound. I will say I think Usyk has the edge over the jab and over the movement, obviously. But Kalbio is a real contender. He's someone that is a real talented fighter. And that's why I say I've never agreed with this heavyweight division, at least of the past 10 years, being untalented. When you have guys like, they're all rough around the edges, but every era has those. You have Joseph Parker, Andrew Ruiz, Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, Danny Dubois. A lot of these guys I think would last in other eras. I'm not saying that they would be necessarily the best in those eras, but I think that, they'd all have a chance to win a belt, in eras. I mean, it depends on which era, but if you're to stick them in the 90s, yeah, I think they'd have a shot to win a title. I mean, if Hassan Rahman can do it, if John Ruiz can do it, to be fair, I think he won his title in the, what is it? 2000s. Excuse me. Sorry. Sorry. Someone was calling me there for a minute. Hold on one sec. Hold on one sec, everybody. Sorry about that, everyone. Had to mute my mic there for a minute. Okay. So someone was calling me. Sorry. But anyways, let's see. But yeah, actually, I want to, before I read some of these other comments, I want to bring up a point earlier that was brought up about Roy Jones Jr. Oh yeah, it was Jo. He said, he said Spinks were light heavyweights who won heavyweight title. Roy Jones, well, right, and that's fine. But I mean, did they ever beat Lennox Lewis? I mean, Michael Spinks lasted 69 seconds against Mike Tyson. I mean, he beat older Larry Holmes, to be fair, but I think that was a more favorable matchup. And then when he fought Mike Tyson, I mean, he pretty much got fucking pounded into the ground. That's really the only great fighter Mike Tyson ever defeated, which is why I call Mike Tyson very overrated. He's still a relatively great fighter, but he's not an all-time great in my view. Usyk is an all-time great because he actually won all the biggest fights of his career. But let me at both weight classes, by the way. But let's see. Roy Jones was a 154-pounder. Well, here's also another thing, and I'm glad that I reread this comment. I've been saying this for so long. Just because you start off at a weight class does not mean that you belong in that weight class for the rest of your career. Terrence Crawford was 5'8" with a 74-inch arm reach at 135. Do you really think he's going to stay at 135 for the rest of his career? Rafael Espinoza right now is 6'1" with a 8-inch arm reach or whatever the fuck he has, something like that. Do you think he's really going to stay at 126 for the rest of his career? Like Devin Haney was hydrating at 165 at 140 and is 5'9" with a 71-inch arm reach. And same with Oscar De La Hoya and Bernard Hopkins. There are just some guys that are just not meant to stay at that weight class. I'm not sure why a lot of people don't understand this context. There are certain guys that, once again, and I have the standard. The reason why I have Oscar De La Hoya and Bernard Hopkins, both of them as some of the more overrated fighters of all time, by the way, is because they were too big for their weight classes at the start of their career. When they started facing guys that could handle their talent and also more similar in size, they started losing. All right, that's why Bernard, you never seen him beat a Joe Calzaghe, although to be fair, he was older. He never beat guys, overall like a Roy Jones Jr. in his prime. He never beat guys like, what was his name, a Jermaine Taylor, who actually had great talent before he lost to Kelly Pavlik, or some of the other guys. Bernard could beat guys that were very beatable, top 10 guys like Kelly Pavlik, by the way, when he moved them up, 1 or 2 weight classes, or Winky Wright, or Antonio Tarver. No, none of those fighters that I just mentioned, no one is ever going to put any of those guys in the all-time great conversations. The only all-time great fighters that Bernard ever beat were guys that were clearly smaller than him, like Felix Trinidad and also that of Oscar De La Hoya. Look at all the other fighters that he defeated. No one ever calls Antonio Tarver an all-time great. He's a great fighter, not an all-time great. Winky Wright, I mean, maybe. But to be fair, one could debate that he's more of a 160, maybe 168 pounder. I don't think he's the same size as Bernard. And then you have Antonio, then you have Kelly Pavlik. Who calls him an all-time great level fighter? I mean, come on. Come on. It is what it is. Oscar De La Hoya, same thing. I mean, he beat some great fighters. Don't get it twisted. But whenever he fought guys similar in size, he pretty much lost. Yeah, you can beat the shit out of Chavez, who's several inches, not as lengthy as you and shorter than you. But what can you do against Trinidad? What can you do against Mosley? Guys who are similar in size and can actually handle your style, and your size. And he pretty much lost all those fights, so that's why, I have those standards. But anyways, I'm getting away from my my main thing. But anyways, I really appreciate that all you guys are coming in live though. But let's see. As for the who wins between Usyk and Ajit, honestly, man, I have not analyzed that much. That's truly a 50-50 level fight if they come in at their best. I would maybe slightly favor Usyk if Usyk comes in at his best, but Cabello's no fucking joke. That dude is a real problem. Now, in terms of talking about other guys like Moses, That's tough because I've not seen enough of Moses. He's severely talented, though. I may even favor Moses just because he's obviously younger and he's very talented and bigger than Usyk. So I mean, it's that. And then of course you also have Frank Sanchez. I don't think I would favor Frank just because I don't think he puts the pace on enough, but he's very powerful and he's got great skills. I just think Usyk would be a little bit too quick and a little bit too high pace for him. But you don't know. It would be very interesting. But to me, Usyk's legacy is already kind of somewhat set in stone because, well, I mean, how much more does he have to do with 39? I mean, now if he does lose, maybe his legacy could be ruined a little bit. One could debate that, but to me, it's going to be hard to completely just derail him. You know, he's always going to be a greater fighter. If he does lose his next fight, that could maybe affect, of course, obviously, like a top 10 or top 20 ranking of all time, maybe. But it's going to be hard just because, I mean, he's 39. He's obviously slowing down a little bit. So, and he's already fighting guys that are like, what, 20, 30 pounds bigger than him. So there's only so much I can really get after Usyk here. But anyway, my man Jaime Raiden says, my theory is that the ref was paid by Vlad Zelensky, the president of Ukraine. I mean, I will say this. That ref, in my view, was paid some money under the table. You know, I don't know if it was the fucking president of the Ukraine, the president of, you know, Saudi Arabia, the president of, you know, Egypt, whatever the fuck it was. You know, I think Turkey had a hand in it. I'll say that much in it because you can't have a kickboxer coming into boxing and embarrassing your sport like that. He says, hello, just kidding. Let's see. If Usyk beat Aji Cabello, that proves that he didn't take Rico seriously because Aji Cabello would destroy Rico. Aji K is a real deal. He KO'd Zhang Bang as well. And that dude was no joke. Aji Cabello, the beast. Well, that's my point also as well. If Usyk goes in there and just destroys Aji Cabello or Moses Itama, pretty much no one is going to be talking about this. That's why I say now it's very possible he may lose one of those fights. Both of those fights are very losable, but I think Usyk very obviously here there was nothing about Usyk that looked like the regular Usyk in this fight. Nothing, not his conditioning, not this, not that, just literally nothing. So that's why I say. But let's see. Joshua and Tyson would be real giants were they thrown back in the 80s or 90s, let alone Ali's era. Yes, they would be, and they would be a problem. I'm not saying that they would beat everybody. You know, especially if you're talking about a guy like Lennox Lewis, but would they beat certain guys? Yeah. You know, would I favor a guy overall like let's say Tiffany Cook says Aji Cabello is ethnically Middle Eastern, not German. Well, yeah, he's like Kurdish or something like that. You can tell by the way he looks, but he's, you know what I mean? Like he's from Germany. But that overall beat, like I understand what you're saying. But overall, yeah, no, AJ and Fury, you know, I'll state this. Usyk's win, and a lot of people are going to find this controversial. I don't think it's really controversial at all if you truly know boxing, and I know that that's a loaded statement right there. But Usyk's wins over probably AJ Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury, they're probably bigger wins than any of the wins of Mike Tyson's career, and that's going to piss a lot of people off. But other than Michael Spinks, who's already kind of outsized for the weight class, who the fuck else did you beat? That's why I say Mike Tyson to me is a borderline top 10 heavyweight of all time. I'm not really quite sure if he is. So that's why I say, you know, Mike Tyson to me, probably one of the more overrated fighters. Still a great fighter, just nowhere near as great as what people say that he is. But yeah, let's see. B. Wayne, yo, what's good? Mike Rodriguez says, to be fair, I'm loving this live comment section because I've gotten like one fucking comment off of my video, and we're doing a lot of live comments. I love this. Thank you so much. To be fair, De La Hoya, I thought he beat. I will say that I do believe De La Hoya beat Shane Mosley in the rematch as well. I agree with that, but I can see where you're coming from when you call De La Hoya overrated. He's overrated for sure, but Shane is also a bit overrated at times. People. You know, they and that's also another thing. Like that comment from earlier. Well, we need to start comparing, you know, white fighters to other white fighters, white black fighters. Well, are we going to compare Shane Mosley to guys like Floyd Mayweather or like Muhammad Ali? Like that doesn't make any sense just because they're black. Like, come on, what are we talking about? Like Shane Mosley obviously isn't on their level. We'd have to compare him more, you know, overall with guys like. I mean, I'm not really sure. Probably, like he'd probably be more in the class of Miguel Cotto and Marquez and guys like that. To me, that's where he would be. All those guys are kind of on a similar level. De La Hoya is on that level as well, by the way, in my view, and Tommy Hearns is as well. That's another fighter I also find to be a bit overrated. Tommy Hearns, you're 6'1" with a 78-inch arm reach. You really should be fighting at middleweight, you know, combined with your weight. And the one big pound for pound win that I've seen that you ever gotten was over Roberto Duran, and that guy's way smaller than you. People don't understand my point when I'm coming from this. And Tommy Hearns was a very great fighter. But what happened when he fought all the other pound for pound fighters that were relative in size? He literally got fucking knocked out in every single one of them. To be fair, I do think he beat Sugar Ray in the second match. But when they were both at their absolute peaks and primes in that first match, got knocked out in a fight he was winning, by the way, got knocked out against Hagler, got knocked out against the fighter he really shouldn't have even got knocked out against Iran Barkley. I don't even know if Iran Barkley won a whole lot of the other big fights in his career, but he sure beat Tommy Hearns. So that's another fighter that I have on my more overrated list. So let's see. Let's see. Cabello is indeed Middle Eastern. Germany has a few real Germans left. Well, yeah, in terms of like, I know what you guys are saying, but was he born in, like, I know he has, you know what I mean, though. I mean, Anthony Joshua, obviously, he doesn't have British ancestry, I think, but, he got Nigerian ancestry. Y'all know what I mean, though. I get it. But anyway. B. Wayne says, I thought Rico, the ref, and his corner bought time. Well, they definitely did. All right, Rico is known for doing this because I've watched a couple of his kickboxing fights myself. Very talented fighter, by the way, as a kickboxer, phenomenally talented. Huge guy, by the way, fucking huge. For those of you that don't know his dimensions, he's like, can be anywhere from like 260 to 275, 6'6", and like I don't even know his arm reach. It looks like, fuck. I mean, it might be anywhere from like 78 to 80 fucking 3 inches. I would literally have to look that up. He does that a lot. That's also been a consistent problem in his kickboxing performances. And I don't mind it too much as long as it happens, but one could debate. I mean, the stoppage to me was terrible in that fight. It was awful. It was super controversial because the bell fucking rang and then you stop the fight. Like, what is that? Like, and I thought the Joseph Parker versus Fabio Worthy fight was terrible. And there was like a minute left in that round. But this was just fucking awful. It's up there with the Chavez and Meldrick Taylor stoppage. It's just awful. By the way, for those of you that are not familiar with the Meldrick Taylor Julio Cesar Chavez fight, I don't think I've ever actually watched that fight in full, but I know of it. Apparently, Meldrick Taylor was completely outboxing him, completely winning the fight. Then they fucking stopped the fight with like 4 seconds left in the round. The last round, it's such a terrible stoppage. But one could debate that Rico was kind of pulling some tricks here and there that were a little bit controversial as well. But anyway, let's see. I thought Aja Cabello was a Hispanic guy when I first seen him. I could tell he was some sort of, he's like either Armenian or fucking Middle East. So one of those guys. He has the look for it. But anyway, De La Hoya also lost to Whitaker. I thought that, that was a debatable fight as well. And Whitaker was clearly undersized for that fight. That's why, to me, even the wins that De La Hoya has over Whitaker and Chavez, it's like, that's great. But to me, that's like similar to Devin Haney beating a Lomachenko, and then you can't beat Teofimo Lopez or you can't defeat Ryan Garcia. Like, that's to me what that is. You know what I mean? And I kind of thought that, Whitaker could have won that fight as well. I agree with you. Mike, me too. Anyway. Yeah, I have a lot of people thought he was Hispanic, huh? I don't think I've seen many Hispanic Germans. Hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're, over there. I don't know. I think a lot of MMA and kickboxing guys are hating on the fight because they hate and envy boxing in general. Now there's finally a good opportunity. There definitely is that. UFC, MMA, and kickboxing, they've been looking to it's kind of like the LA Clippers and the LA Lakers. The LA Clippers, every chance they get, always kind of poke fun at the LA Lakers because the LA Lakers actually have a dynasty. Like, you notice, like, with people with little brother syndrome, the big brother or the person that looks to have a higher profile, they don't mention them that much. MMA always mentions boxing because, they feel like boxing looks at them as, being lower class. They obviously make a whole lot of more money. So they're still trying to, catch up on the curve there. There definitely is an inferiority complex there with a little bit of those MMA guys. And it's still newer compared to boxing. So they're trying to catch up, but we'll see on that. By the way, boxing expert, if you're still here, brother, I'm going to answer your question about the UFC GOAT potentially. We'll get to that. I just have so many fucking comments right now. But anyway, B. Wayne says 100% to, I believe, the Pale, his comment. Let's see. And Usyk haters have been waiting for a chance for years too, for sure, especially from the LDBC and the media, no doubt about it. Yep, ever since he went to heavyweight. Yep. You should make an early analysis of Canelo versus Mbili. I've been waiting a year to hear your prediction on that. Oh, I've been waiting to hear your prediction. I think Canelo more than likely is going to get him. I wouldn't be shocked if Canelo would win. I just think Mbili's. I seen this fight against that one. Was he like Honduran or something like that? They're calling this guy like the next Canelo. I wasn't that impressed with him. I mean, he has talent, but I honestly thought Mbili won that fight. I thought they were clearly trying to fucking give it to the Hispanic guy. So I thought that, they scored it a draw when it really shouldn't have been. I thought they clearly won the fight 6 rounds to 4 because I think it was only like a 10-round fight. Mbili is all stop, no go. And I mean, he might be able to give Canelo some problems if he's really, really, really fucking done. But I think Canelo has a bit more left. I just think that, he didn't have enough for the tank and combined with the, better skill set of a Crawford. I just think Crawford was able to clearly beat him. I think Canelo more than likely will beat Mbili. I don't think Mbili will have enough. Canelo, although he always kind of has a little bit of a problem with those types at first, he always catches them with a good shot, and then they kind of slow down. I've seen it with Munguia. I've seen it with Kirkland. I mean, if Mbili can take his fucking shots and keep coming forward, sure. Do I see that happening? Probably not. I think that it'll be more competitive than what it would have been several years ago because I think Canelo obviously has gone downhill since then severely, but he's still an A-grade level fighter, not the S-tier level fighter that he used to be, but still probably around, bordering on A to A minus. Anyway, B Wayne says they stopped the clock with 8 seconds on its first AJ versus Usyk. This was the opposite. Yeah, there's been a couple of occasions, even in Usyk fights, where you can tell that there's a little bit of favoritism against Usyk, like in the AJ fight, and also like they stopped the round early, or Tyson Fury, where he honestly probably could have even knocked Fury out in the 9th round. I think it was the 9th round, either the 9th or the 10th, but I think it was the 9th where he hurt Fury really badly. But to be fair with that, I can kind of understand because you want that big fight to keep going, and overall, I kind of get it, at least counting that as a knockdown. I mean, at least they gave Usyk the 10-8 round, the Rico fight. Caballel and Tolian Kurdish. Yeah, I thought he was Kurdish. Did Rico break the rules with all the hanging he did? I don't think so, because it didn't. I mean, he did do a lot of hugging. To me, there's a lot of people that do complain about like clinching and hugging in boxing. To me, it's a necessary part of the sport, especially when you have someone that is either maneuverable or someone that you have to use your weight against. So to me, it's not really that much of a problem unless it's so ugly to the fight. Like when a James Bone Crusher Smith did it against Mike Tyson, he literally would do nothing else. Like all he fucking did was hold, at least from what I remember. To be fair, I watched that fight probably like fucking when I was like 11 or 12. So it's been a fucking long time. But that was when I was a huge Mike Tyson fan in my young teenage years. But that being stated, that's like the only recollection I can think of. So I'm not going to do that. Let's see. Majority of the time, the corruption against him was going on in their back. There was like Marco Huck, DDD, AJ Kisora, Fury. Marco Huck was a fucking asshole in that fight. He showed a lot of his character, and I understand trying to piss off your opponent, but he really showed how much of a prick he actually was. And I think that and I'm not someone that usually talks about guys like that. I think, but he showed how much of an asshole he truly was. He hit Usyk when he was down, I think, or like tried to. I think Usyk slipped and he fucking hit him while he was down. Like he would try to hit him on breaks. He would try to hit him low. Like and Usyk knocked his ass out. That was probably one of the more satisfying ass whoopings that, I seen. So yeah, I mean, it is what it is anyway. But yeah, DDD, I'm sure we'll get to that comment later. Guys hate on Klitschko for it. Well, the Klitschko era, I think, is hated on for a few reasons. First of all, that was the drift away from a black heavyweights not dominating that era. And I think a lot of Americans and Brits especially didn't like the feel of that. Whenever there's a changeover, especially, from a former demographic or a former nation or culture, not, doing that sport. And it doesn't matter what sport it is. There's always like a little bit of side eyes. Like when Patrick Mahomes recently in the NFL, a black quarterback who really was the first to be that successful independently as what he was, there were some side eyes from some of these Caucasian reporters, make no mistake about it. But on the other side of the coin, now because this is the first black quarterback that's ever been on this level, and there's been other black quarterbacks that have been on a great level, like Russell Wilson and, Warren Moon to a degree, although he's one of the more overrated quarterbacks of all time, Warren Moon. As well. The most overrated quarterback I've always debated was debatably Aaron Rodgers, Dan Marino as well, and also Warren Moon, Eli Manning. There's a few others. I'd have to see. That's a whole nother topic, though. But anyways, that overall being stated, like, when you have, a Jokic or Patrick Mahomes in a sport, when that demographic doesn't usually dominate in that sport, you have people from both sides of that demographic. You know, one side saying they're the greatest ever, and another side saying they're the most overrated ever. It just happens. And the same thing kind of happened with Usyk and Lomachenko as well. So I mean, it just is what it is. Um, let's see. But Klitschko, going back to Klitschko, I think that it did hurt his style a little bit because a lot of the times Klitschko would kind of make the fights not as entertaining. So I'm not going to completely go against guys for saying that. On top of that, Klitschko was a guy that he fought in a very weak era, in my view, and that's why it's hard for me to put Klitschko as a lock for top 10 heavyweights of all time. Because if you really like, I can name you the top 5 wins of Muhammad Ali's career. I can name you Sonny Liston. I can name you George Foreman. You know, Joe Frazier, obviously. Maybe there's a Ken Norton up there. Maybe a Floyd Patterson. There's probably a few others, you know, that I'm not mentioning. I don't know. And even guys that are not top 5. You can mention Ernie Shavers. You can mention guys that were like seriously talented. Cleveland Williams, although he was very straightforward in my view. There's a few others. You know, if you take a look at, Evander Holyfield, Mike Tyson, Riddick Bowe, Michael Moore, overall, there's a few others there. Maybe who else did Evander fight in his career? I know he fought a lot of names. I'm kind of blanking at some of them at the moment. But the point is, I can name you a lot of those. Let's go, to be honest with you, and this is where also the size thing comes in for me. He outsized a lot of his opponents because he's like what, 6'6" with a 80 something inch reach or like a 79 inch reach. You're about the same size as an AJ. And you're fighting these guys for that. That was the era where heavyweights really started to get like really fat and out of shape. Like the era that people say this is today when they talk about it being a weak heavyweight era. No, that was the Klitschko era. The Klitschko era ended when Tyson Fury had officially dethroned Klitschko. That's when all of a sudden, flawed fighters for sure, but a new wave of talent emerged. AJ, Wilder, Joseph Parker, Andrew Ruiz, Dillian White, Daniel Dubois came in later. And, now these newer guys. That's when it changed over. So people that are talking about like this is the weakest era, they did not see the Klitschko era. The Klitschko era was fucking awful because like one of the top contenders that Klitschko fought was fucking Kubrat Pulev. I'm sorry if Kubrat Pulev is one of your fucking top 3 contenders. That's a very weak era. I know that a lot of people overall are going to disagree with that. But here's my question: like, can anyone truly name the top 5 wins in Klitschko's career? Because I fucking can't do it. Like David Haye, who very clearly undersized him. There was also probably Samuel Peter. And that's also another thing. Like I said, every heavyweight has an embarrassment. People may not remember this. Klitschko lost in a few upsets in the early part of his career. He lost to a guy, I think by his name, like Corey Sanders or something like that. And he was like a fucking soccer player turned boxer, although he wasn't as inexperienced as Rico, of course. Came in, knocked, like fucking dominated Klitschko. So that's my point. Like every heavyweight has an embarrassing moment. The reason why, to me, this doesn't affect his legacy that much, talking about Usyk now, this is literally the only embarrassing moment I've ever seen from Usyk. He's literally clearly beat everyone else, disadvantages or not. He's beat Murat Gassiev clearly. He's beat Glavacki clearly. He's beat Michael Hunter clearly. He's beat, Maris Breidis clearly, and maybe some other guys at cruiserweight, I can't remember. He's beat Daniel Dubois, obviously, clearly. He knocked him out fucking twice, and then he beat AJ clearly. He beat Tyson Fury clearly. There's like, so the only embarrassment, obviously it's a very bad embarrassment because it's against a kickboxer, but there was no moments where he lost to a Buster Douglas in a 42-1 underdog fight. There was no moments where he had a Lennox Lewis, embarrassment, where he lost to a Hassan Rahman or an Oliver McCall, got slept on the canvas twice. There was no moment of that. There was no moment of, him getting knocked out against a Corey Sanders in a humongous upset where he had a clear size advantage. There was nothing like that. So this is why I say there was no even performance against a Burt Cooper. I mean, he had it against Derek Chisora, sure, if you want to claim that. But I mean, Derek Chisora, once again, to be fair, that was like a second heavyweight fight. This is why I say every heavyweight has their embarrassing moment. This is literally the only embarrassing moment of Usyk's career. There's not been another one. And against the likes of guys like Fury and AJ, that's why to me, it's not going to affect it that much. And even if he would have had more embarrassing moments before, I mean, like I said, to me, he obviously didn't take the fight seriously. So we'll continue. Mike Rodriguez said, excuse me, if Usyk versus Aja Cabello doesn't happen, who would you favorite between Aja Cabello and Moses Itama? That's a tough fight. That is probably the best fight for Moses other than Usyk out there. That's a very tough fight. Ajay Cabello knows how to put it on you. Ajay Cabello is one of those guys that is really such a terrible style to face for anybody out there because he's so fucking brutal. He comes forward. He has a very good jab. He's a good counterpuncher, especially up close and personal. He's so fucking like he's really built like Jarrell Big Baby Miller. He's nowhere near as heavy as him, but he's fucking like he's just huge. He's just built like a tank in there, and he's a high IQ level boxer. Now, to be fair, I don't know how consistently Cabello can fight in a multitude of styles. That's the one thing I'm wondering. I think that Itama would have the advantage on the quicker feet and on the mid range. But Itama in his last fight, although he did look pretty good, he did look a little bit flustered. Now, to be fair, I'm not always going to judge that because I've seen so many boxers in the early part of their career not have a good performance against a lower level opponent. Then they come in the next few fights against higher level opponents and they just completely kick ass. I've seen it time and time again. Usyk had a tough fight over Derek Chisora just to beat AJ and Fury. Miguel Cotto had tough times against guys like DeMarcus Chop Chop Corley just to knock out Zab Judah and also to clearly beat Shane Mosley. So, I mean, it happens, and also knock out Carlos Quintana or Quintana, however you pronounce it. But that's a tough fight. I would like to say Moses Itama just because he has the quicker feet, but I mean, Cabello is a real live dog in any fight that he takes, and he's a real fucking challenge for anyone in that weight class. So it's tough, to be honest. But let's see. All 5 of those opponents have fouled Usyk just to get an edge. I'm trying to remember. Tanya Dubois definitely has. He threw a couple low blows, although to be fair, some of those Usyk definitely does not prefer body shots. I will state that. I've never agreed with the point that Usyk got knocked out against Dubois. It's just stupid because it's obvious that punch was on the whole fucking belt line, if not even a bit below. So yes, that's a low blow. I mean, it just is what it is. People can argue with it, but that's the rules. When you talk about AJ, I mean, AJ at times hit him a bit lower, tried to get body shots. I don't really remember AJ trying to foul him all that much. Fury, I mean, maybe. I don't really remember Fury fouling him that much either. I mean, I think obviously there was probably like a few low blows for Fury, but I think, he was trying to go to the body with that. So, I mean, but, Cabello definitely, tried to spit out his mouthpiece, obviously. So, I mean, it's whatever. I mean, I get it, including Rico. You think Rico deserves a rematch? I mean, I think Rico to me would have to. I think to me he'd have to beat someone. I think a rematch would be interesting. Do I think it's necessary? No. I think that, and that's why I'm saying like a lot of these people are saying like, well, Usyk got exposed. It's like, okay, well, if he's that exposed because Rico is just the one to beat Usyk, well, then why don't we have a rematch? And then they're not going to ask for that because they know that Usyk will more than likely destroy him in a rematch. Or if you're going to say, well, that's not fair because Cabello and other guys have been waiting, that's cool. That's fine. I understand that. But then, okay, so if he beats Cabello, then give Rico a rematch, right? That's obviously what's called for because Rico got robbed. None of them would ever ask for that because they know more than likely the rematch would not be close. So what does that tell you? They know more than likely that Usyk did not take that fight, seriously. But anyways. Tiffany Cook says, this is talking about the racial thing. You tend to forget Larry Bird and Jerry West exist, so I don't know why you keep bringing up Jokic. Well, the reason why I bring up Jokic is because it's been such a long time since a Caucasian player could have been looked at as the best in the NBA or a different race other than that of a black player. That's the reason why I bring him up. The last one that was looked to be the best in the NBA that would have been a Caucasian maybe would have been Dirk Nowitzki for like that year, when he went on that tremendous run in 2011. But I don't think that he was ever truly looked at as the best in the NBA. The last one that would have been Larry Bird. The point is that whenever you have a different demographic that differs from the usual demographic in a sport, people are going to look at that. You're going to have one side, that usually has the throne in that sport say, hey, they're overrated. What are you talking about? I mean, same thing happened with Tiger Woods in golf. It doesn't mean that Tiger Woods is not a great golfer. I think that it's a rational question to ask if someone is being overrated because of the racial element. But we also have to take a look at their accomplishments. We can't just say that, someone like if a Caucasian were to just state like, well, I think Patrick is overrated. Patrick Mahomes is overrated because he's just being overrated because he's a black quarterback. He doesn't have this, he doesn't have that, but to me, like, I would have to hear your point. Now, if you're rating Patrick Mahomes as the greatest quarterback of all time, sure. But then if you're going to the extra length of saying like he's, he won all of Super Bowls off of luck and this and that, and he did this, he didn't deserve the MVPs, then that tells me when there's clear evidence against that, then that tells me, okay, you have like a racial issue here. And that's my thing, like with like the Bruce and Vane videos that I've reviewed, especially about Lomachenko. Because to say that Lomachenko is overrated in terms of he shouldn't have been put on the Mayweather level, okay, sure. All right, that's fine. But then when you go as far to state that, every time he stepped up in competition, he lost, it's like, okay, well, let's slow down. Because if we're going to give guys like Bernard Hopkins credit, we got to give Lomachenko a little bit of credit here. Because Lomachenko, yes, he did lose to Tio and he did lose to Haney, although those guys were bigger than him. To be fair, if he was on the Usyk level, he would have beat those guys. But, the thing overall, or at least Teofimo, but I mean, the thing overall is that he didn't lose every big fight in his career. You have to slow down a little bit. You have to have a balance, and that's the thing. Most people don't know how to have a balance with this. So it's like Lomachenko, we can't say he lost every big fight in his career because he beat Gary Russell. He beat Nicholas Walters. He beat Guillermo Rigondeaux. He beat Jorge Linares. He also beat George Kambosos. Although you can claim George Kambosos was a bit older for sure. But anyways. But yeah. But anyways, that being stated, let me see. Let me see here. Even Bob Foster, great light heavy. I've heard the name. Honest with you, I don't know him that much, so I cannot tell you that much about him. I do know he's an older fighter, but I'll have to but yeah, but I'll take a look that up. Klitschko era had two really good boxers, and sadly, they're my point fucking exactly. Yes, the Klitschko brothers were pretty much. I mean, some fighters did have talent. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you had guys like Samuel Peter, who was fat and out of shape, but he still had talent. And some of the guys. That dude is fucking hilarious. But yeah, but let's see. Excuse me. Yeah. John Sean Boxon says 5A grade Klitschko wins were Ray Mercer, Peter Povetkin, Bird, and Hay. Well, Ray Mercer, I think, was a very decent heavyweight. You could probably count that as an A- win. Here's also my thing. Klitschko was clearly bigger than that guy, and everyone knows my standards for things like that. To me, that's why when Fury got in the ring with him, I think that, to be fair, Klitschko was like 39. I'll give him that. Here's a question that I will ask. Does anyone here think that Klitschko would actually beat Tyson Fury in his prime? I don't. I don't personally think he would. I think that Fury has overall quicker hands than him. I think he has better upper body movement than him. I don't even think it's close. And honestly, I mean, I don't think that he would. I know a lot of people are going to think that I'm crazy for saying that, but that's why Usyk had such a problem with someone like a Tyson Fury, because who the fuck did he ever fight in his prime that ever would have prepared him for someone like that? The guys that he fought were clearly nowhere near as tall as him, nowhere near as lengthy as him usually, and guys that were completely out of shape. Even Ray Mercer to a degree. Ray Mercer sometimes was a fat bastard in some of his fights. Anyway, but yeah, Povetkin was good, also clearly smaller than him. Bird, pretty decent, and Hay, but also once again a cruiserweight that came up to heavyweight. So I mean, anyway, they say it's the weakest heavyweight era due to discredit Usyk. I agree. Let's see. Klitschko also lost to Ross Purity, who wasn't even a top 30 fighter, and this was when Klitschko was undefeated. Exactly. That's why I say the Klitschko era was not a very strong era. That being stated, obviously, Klitschko is not at his peak there. He would get later on in the future, so I'm not here to shit all over Klitschko. He's, at the very least, a top 20 heavyweight of all time. If you were to put him in the top 10, that's up to you. But to me, there's just not a lot of fighters to really give him in that era. I'm sorry, but it is what it is. Vitaly is actually the greatest / most successful kickboxer / boxer in history. Yeah, I heard he transitioned over. I mean, I think his is a little bit different because he started boxing earlier. I mean, if I'm wrong about that, someone would have to correct me. But yeah, that would explain the upright and not moving their head up the center line stance. That would explain that. But yeah, let's see. Even though it's a weak era, I'd put Vlad and Vitaly in the top 10 over Fury, AJ Wilder, even Liston, Frazier, Bowen, Tyson. Ooh, that's a good conversation. Vladimir, I don't know. Is he over someone like a Tyson Fury? Well, here's my thing, though. It's like, yeah, like Vladimir has 19 title defense or something like that, but it's like against who? Like Fury beat Klitschko. I mean, I know he was 39, but it still was at an A-grade point. And he also beat Wilder. I mean, I got to be honest, and I know that people are going to ridicule me for this. There were fighters that were more skilled than Deontay Wilder that Klitschko fought in his particular era. But here's my question. With Wilder's height and reach, was there really a threat that Klitschko ever fought in his era that would have been the size of a Deontay Wilder? I'm not sure, because are we 100% sure that guys like Ray Mercer or Alexander Povetkin beat that of a Deontay Wilder? I'm not sure that those guys do. So that's why I say that. And I understand Wilder's not the most talented boxer of all time. But I will say this: he did have one shot knockout power, and he did have size. I'll give him that. I will give him that. Liston is a guy that has been a little bit overrated. He is a great boxer, but the reason why he's kind of promoted so fucking highly is because of his the upset win, with Ali. And I think people kind of promote him a little bit higher than what he actually deserves to be. He also had a massive size advantage over Floyd Patterson, which pretty much is the main big win in his career. Frazier's good. He also at times can be slightly overrated in my view. To be fair, he does have obviously that one win over Ali, so he deserves a lot of credit. But I just don't think his resume is quite as extensive. He does have some wins over some top 10 guys for the time, but he doesn't have a win over Foreman, he doesn't have a win over Ken Norton, he doesn't have a win over any of those guys. So Frazier is a great fighter, but I mean it's a little bit hard to rank him. I don't think I can include him in my top 5 of all time, but he'd be like top 10, top 20. And I know to a lot of people they disagree. But anyway, where do you rank higher, Vladimir or my? That's a great question actually. Who do I rank higher, Vladimir or Mike Tyson? Ah, fuck. That is a tremendous fucking question, actually. Because I don't think both of them were literally in the weakest fucking eras in the heavyweight division. Larry Holmes as well. All three of those guys were in the weakest fucking eras of all time for the heavyweight class. Mike Tyson, to be fair, did beat a Michael Spinks that just defeated Larry Holmes, and actually was promoted to number 2 pound for pound. I'll give him that. That being stated, I think it's pretty fucking clear that Michael Spinks did not belong there. And to be fair, he was height and reach wise taller and lengthier than Tyson, but Tyson clearly was, height and reach isn't always the factor. It can be a factor as long as you can compete at the weight class. But that would be like Sebastian Fundora fighting fucking Jai Opatai or something like that. I mean, obviously not in the exact light, but like, you know what I mean? The point overall is that's like someone who's a bit taller fighting like a real fucking heavyweight. Like that's something that's a little bit different. Fuck, I don't know. That's a real good question right there. Honestly, they're about on the same level for me. They're borderline top 10, probably top 20, but I don't know if I would for sure include either of them in my top 20. I think that Klitschko probably got more consistent A grade level wins, but he had a clear size advantage. The problem is with Tyson for me is like, other than Michael Spinks, it's like, what other fucking A grade wins do you have? Because I'm sorry, I'm not counting Pingleton Thomas and fucking James Quick Tillis as A grade. I'm just not. Like, first of all, a lot of those guys had fucking drug problems, and that was even back when Larry Holmes was fighting them. But by the time that Tyson was fighting them, I mean, some of them were okay. But it's like, who do you really count as an A? Like, is it Frank Bruno? Like, does anyone consider Frank Bruno to be one of the greater champions in history? What about James Bone Crusher Smith, who had a record of like 15-3 when he fought Mike Tyson? Like, are you kidding me? What about, Mitch Green? Like, what about, I'm sorry, but those guys were fucking nobodies. And I know that a lot of people are going to get after me for that, but it's just the truth. That's why most people can't fucking remember most of those names. Butterbean was the most underrated heavyweight in my opinion, for sure. I'll give Butterbean this. He had one hell of a punch. He was not bad, but he was, nowhere near as committed to the sport as what he fucking needed to be. But that's funny. But let's see. Let's see. That's funny. Butterbean. I mean, hey, to be fair, one can say that Butterbean was the fucking he was the influencer Andy Ruiz, I guess. I don't know. I mean, obviously, I don't know who fucking Andy Ruiz was influenced by. Fucking Michelin Man. I don't know. Anyway, Tiffany Cook, Klitschko beat Mercer when he was old. He was a bit older by that time, to be fair. Bird really should be a light heavyweight, and Hay was undersized. The only big win was Povetkin. I mean, listen, my thing is this. You can count those as big wins if you fucking want to. But let's not sit here and act like it would have been as big. Like, none of those wins would have been as big as if Klitschko actually would have defeated a prime AJ or prime Fury or prime Wilder. And I know that some people are going to think that I'm fucking bugging on that, or some people are going to think that I'm crazy. I don't listen. To me, you only get so much credit for fighting guys that are clearly shorter and smaller than you and don't have the reach as you and clearly are at a weight disadvantage. To me, you only get so much credit for that. You know what I mean? That's why I say when Fury finally dethroned Klitschko, the era had fucking changed. So that's, anyways. I'm gonna read some of these comments, but I gotta fucking get to some of my comments on the video, guys. Thank you so much for commenting, though. Let's see here. I got to fucking. Where's the power button on this? This is actually not my laptop. This is my wife's laptop because my other one is fucking busted. But anyway, let's see. Thank you. Well, let's see here. All right. Damn thing shut off for me because the let's see. Says Butterbean is only second to Richard Torres. Oh, Richard Torres is. You watch out for that man. That man's going to become the greatest fucking heavyweight of all time. You watch out for that man. To talk about Richard Torres, though, it's so funny to me that Dante, for example, and not to talk about him a whole lot, but like these guys, just to show you what they're truly about, they'll say, well, you should be cheering for the American fighters. This man trashed Richard Torres the immediate time that he lost to Frank Sanchez. This is why I say, like, they'll say, like, well, he's rooting for American, but he's not rooting for American fighters. Because if he was rooting for American fighters, he would have put Richard Torres in a much better light. He was happy that the black Cuban Frank Sanchez beat the American Richard Torres. And hey, don't get it twisted. If that's you, that's you. You know, you root for who you root for, but don't fucking, do this fucking shit, overall, where you're just like, well, this guy overall, I'm rooting for American fight. Like, no, you're not, dude. Come on. Anyway. Tiffany Cook says Vitaly and Vlad not top 10, delusional. I mean, top 10 of all time. I don't think Vitaly can be there, and I thought Vitaly actually had a little bit better competition there. I don't think he's quite top 10. Vlad, I could see there. He just had so much. Usyk is lucky that Butterbean isn't actively fighting. Obviously, I mean, you know who he's really fucking lucky isn't fighting is guys like Frank Bruno. That's who he's fucking lucky isn't fighting. He's really lucky that motherfucker's not fighting. Jake Paul, obviously, a fucking menace. I mean, I'm literally trying to come up with a better joke than that. I can't fucking think of one. Chris Arreola, why not? Anyways, I gotta read some of my fucking comments. Y'all are fucking cracking me up here. Let's see. Oh shit, my next comment, man. We're getting into basketball on this. Okay. My man Tiffany Cook says Allen Iverson isn't nowhere a top 10 player ever, but he is at his position. He's a top 10 shooting guard of all time, though. That was because of the comment, that I made in my video where some people they get this narrative around them of being great or all-time great, even when they're not. And some don't. Like Steph Curry for the longest time had this narrative around him that he was just this choke artist and that he couldn't win without KD. And I get it to a degree. Like KD was, he was a part of the reason why they won the next two championships. Some may even debate the main reason. But if you take a look at the stats and the logistics and everything that actually mattered, and the record, by the way, and the PER when Steph was on the court versus KD, it wasn't even fucking close. And like, why are people acting like Steph was not a two-time MVP and a fucking two-time finals appearance guy and a finals winner, by the way, before KD got there? So that I was very happy when Steph finally proved a lot of his haters and doubters wrong in 2022, I think it was, in the finals, especially against Boston, because he did not have that talented of a team by that time. A lot of the fucking guys that were formerly great, they were gone by that time. To be fair, Allen Iverson didn't have that much either, but in that run. But Steph Curry is to me, Steph Curry is the top 10 player of all time. A lot of people disagree with that. To me, he is. He's just super impactful, best small man of all time, not even a question. And I mean, fucking phenomenal. I mean, who else of his size has even close to accomplished what he has? It's incredible. But that proved me right with that situation, that Steph was always above KD, and it might be more skilled than KD, by the way, and the greater player, obviously, between the two. Allen Iverson, I'm just going to state this. Great player, most overrated NBA player of all time, at least most overrated great player. Not a top 10, not a top 20, not a top 30 player of all time. I know we're steering away from boxing a little bit here, but I just got to say, I do not put Allen Iverson over guys like, what the fuck is his name? Jason Kidd. I don't put him over guys overall. Would he be over Chris Paul? I don't think so. I don't think he would, because without Larry Brown, I think was his name, he had literally one fucking finals run. That was it. I'm getting off track here, but I also love basketball, so I love to debate that shit. However, he did say he's a top 10 shooting guard of all time. Yeah, he would probably be that. But he'd be near the bottom of that list. You know what I mean? Like, he probably would not be top 5. Like, you obviously can't put him with MJ or Kobe. You can't put him with Clyde Drexler or Dwayne Wade, I think. And there's some other Jerry West, you can't put him with him either. So, I mean, anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. But let's move on. Let's see. This man says, Flizzy, says Usyk is an all-time great. He's not an all-time great, but he's a legend though. Well, in my view, he is. And Usyk, by the way, in my personal view, is a top 10 heavyweight of all time. He is. He would just probably be at the bottom of the top 10. But let's see. I'm gonna tell you this. A lot of people fucking disagree with this. Usyk is above these heavyweights in my view. He is above Riddick Bowe. He is above Mike Tyson. He is ready for it. And I know a lot of people are gonna hate me for this. A lot of people are gonna hate for me for this. Get ready. He's above George Foreman. And I know that, a lot of people are going to say, what are you talking? How is he above? If you take a look at George Foreman's top 5 wins in his career, what are they really? You have Joe Frazier. And once again, I have that rule to where if you clearly outsize opponents, it has to go down a little bit. He clearly outsized Frazier. He did not beat Ali. To be fair, he did beat Ron Lyle. Ron Lyle's not a top 30 heavyweight of all time. He maybe would make the top 50 list. When you talk about his other wins, what are they? He beat Michael Moore. I'll give him that. But outside of that, what are the other wins? What are the other wins in his career that he had? That's the question. George Foreman, in my view, all-time great heavyweight fighter, no doubt about it. Resume, slight bit overrated. I would count the Fury and AJ wins as humongous in Usyk's career. And I understand that a lot of people will say, well, Foreman has this amount of wins and that and that. It's like, yeah, he has a lot of 70. He has 70-some wins, I believe. Over who? Who are the wins? And if I'm wrong, then I'll shut up about it. But that's all I'm wondering. Now, would Usyk be over guys like Ali? No. Would he be over a guy like Lewis? No. Would he be? And when I say Lewis, I mean Lennox Lewis. Would he be over a guy like Evander Holyfield? For a heavyweight, probably not. It's slightly debatable just because he got the 2 biggest wins of his career over the super heavyweights. But to be fair, Holyfield does have a lot of, resume there. He has Riddick Bowe. He has Mike Tyson. He has Michael Moore, John Ruiz, although John Ruiz, in my view, he's one of the weaker heavyweight champions of all time. And I think he has a few others that I'm probably forgetting. Buster Douglas, although to be fair, he was completely fat and out of shape for that fight. So I mean, to me, he's right on par. Usyk to me is right on par with guys like Joe Frazier and Evander Holyfield for the heavyweight division. I don't believe, however, he can be top 3 of all time. I don't think he has the extensive enough resume, but I do think he can be with guys like Frazier and Holyfield. I do. In terms of all-time greatness, though, he's above them. He is above them. And the reason why I say that is because Frazier lost to both Ali in his trilogy the majority of the time. He also lost to George Foreman and wasn't competitive. So I do have to put that a little bit up there. So that does have to be mentioned. And on top of that, Usyk was usually at a major size disadvantage. Although, to be fair, Frazier was a little bit as well. But yeah, I know that's going to ruffle a lot of feathers, but that's my accurate hot take of the day. But anyways, let's see. Boxing expert says, I would have to put Usyk below Manny for me now. He's talking about Manny Pacquiao, obviously, and still believe Lennox Lewis is greater than Manny, maybe even Floyd, but we can argue that later, man. I don't think I can play anyone above Floyd Mayweather, at least for sure. But Lennox Lewis and, that guy, he's a great fighter. I just don't think I can with his 2 losses to McCall and Rahman, although obviously I don't think he was at his peak there. But Floyd just had so many big wins. It's so hard for me to not put Floyd as debatably the greatest in my view because he just has so many fucking great wins over skilled fighters. Marquez and Mosley and even an older version of De La Hoya, a Pacquiao, a Marquez, a Hatton, a Castillo, Corrales, who in my view was a bit overrated, but still a great fighter for his time. Cotto, obviously, Canelo. I mean, there's like Cotto, Marquez, Canelo, De La Hoya, Mosley. Those are all fighters that would be within my top 50 of all time. Pacquiao would be in my top 10 of all time. Like, there's not many fighters that have that much of a resume that you can argue several fighters are in the top 10 of all time. Would Lewis be above Klitschko? For all timers, I think they're on a similar level. But if you were to put Lennox Lewis above above Usyk, I would understand it. What I will say is this: Usyk is above Evander Holyfield in my view. He is. I know a lot of people would disagree with that, but he is. So let's see. Anyways, but let's see. Usyk better get on that treadmill and come in lean, and I mean lean against Cabello. He needs to be able to move for sure. I think he will be, though. I think Usyk will be in much better shape than what he was for this fight. He looked just fucking terrible. And that's why I say it very clearly was Usyk that I thought underestimated his opponent. He was fat around the midsection. Never seen him look like that. I've seen him have like a stomach that was, maybe not super defined, but I've never seen him have a descended stomach before. Like it was literally popping out. It was obvious that he was not taking this fight seriously at all. So I have to mention that. So yeah, let's see. Usyk, let's see. Boxing expert says, I mean, you can argue Usyk is overrated with it being valid. Me personally, no, I don't think he's overrated. And people might say, oh, it's only one bad performance. Mate, it wasn't bad. It was crap. That is true. It was terrible. Against the kickboxer, listen, man, we need to have higher standards as boxing fans. Yes, Usyk has done a lot of things. And if he lost against a ranked heavyweight or pound for pound fighter, then yeah, that's understandable. And you wouldn't stay in legacy whatsoever. But a kickboxer, bro, if this was fucking Crawford, there would be no question. Well, this is also what I have to say, because Boxing Expert, the first time that I heard from him, it actually came from Hitman Sports TV's channel. So I know that both of them are kind of Crawford fans there. Yeah, I mean, obviously, if a black fighter or if Crawford were to have a terrible performance like this, obviously, there'd be a lot of non-black fans on it, like flies on, shit, obviously. But for those of us that are logical, and I consider myself as someone very logical, at least in debates, to me, like I said earlier, like someone brought up the point earlier, like, well, Usyk had a terrible fight against Chisora, so that just proves how bad this fucking heavyweight era is. It's like, okay, so Chisora gave Usyk a tougher fight, but he beat Fury and AJ. So does that mean Chisora's better than Fury and AJ? Like, that doesn't make any fucking sense. So I mean, it just is what it is. Like, I understand the point he's trying to make, but it's just not coherent enough in my view. It's just not something that's arguable enough. So I mean, the point overall is that Crawford has had, at times iffy performances, like against Madrimov and Kaviaskis, two guys that really aren't super well known, at least when he fought them. But I mean, does that mean that, he's not going to beat guys like Canelo or Spence? I mean, we've seen what he did. So I can't detract from his career because of that. Now, obviously, those guys are boxers. Enrico's only a kickboxer, but still, to me, there's only so much I can say about Usyk when, first of all, you won the fight. And second of all, you're still undefeated. Third of all, you clearly beat all the best boxers in your career when you were in tip-top shape. So that's my point right there. But let's see. Let's see. Mr. Classical Metal says, definitely not overrated. Not with this list of accomplishments. T Street Controversy said it best. It's mostly US-based content creators and boxing fans, quote unquote, that have disliked him, always disliked him, and now who are claiming that he's overrated. Well, when we say US fans, let's be real. We all know what US fans we're talking about mainly. It's mainly that of the LDBC and new media shit. So a lot of the Americanized, black racialized channels. I mean, it just is what it is. Now, are there certain channels that are black channels, of course, that are not doing that? Of course. Boxing Wave and other guys like that, of course. But you have a lot of these guys that are very bitter because a lot of, the negative stereotypes and a lot of the double standards against black fighters that they started doing it back, to that of non-black fighters. And I get it to a degree, but we have to, stay logical if we want to claim ourselves to be non-biased, which those channels are not. So every time there's a bad performance by Inoue or Usyk or Lomachenko, they're going to chomp at the bit, in order once again to, get on that. But anyway, but let's see. Let me read some of the live comments. It says Tiffany Vladimir has an argument because of his long reign. He has an argument as top 10. I don't think that Vitaly does though, just because his reign was too short. John Chom boxing negative. B. Wayne says, how ironic how much hate Jokic and Caleb Clark get. I mean, yeah. I mean, the thing is that if you're a Caucasian in a mainly black sport, yeah, you're going to get a lot of hate. That's just how it is. A lot of those people are going to look at him as if they're super overrated. Luka kind of got the same thing. So I mean, it is what it is. That's just going to be a part of it. B. Wayne, Caitlin Clark do get massively overrated. She hasn't done nothing. To be fair, I don't know enough about the WNBA. I don't really watch that shit. So I can't really fucking claim to you anything. She definitely, a part of her brand definitely is that she's Caucasian in a black sport. Is she slightly overrated? Maybe. I don't know her enough. So maybe, but that means that she's definitely partially popular overall because of that. But anyway, B. Wayne, Tiffany, prove my point again. Tiffany says, Caitlin Clark is overrated though, especially when you get Aja Wilson, who's a bona fide all-time great. Aja, is that fucking woman that looks like a man? That has like that fucking caveman ass jawline. And I'll tell you what, some of those WNBA players like Brittany fucking Grant, like there's no way those girls are like actual girls, man. Those fucking, whew, Jesus Christ. Those girls are built like fucking bodybuilders. Jesus Christ. Anyway, don't get me twisted. Great basketball players, but damn. Anyway, Bruce Wayne needs to keep loose in big fights energy from my Iron Mike Tyson. Now, I agree with that. I don't understand why Iron Mike always gets compared to all-time great level fighters. I think it was because he was so entertaining and he was so popular. And sometimes when you have a fighter that's so popular, people kind of look at them as more iconic. So they kind of mistake that for being all-time great. He was not an all-time great level fighter in my view. You know, he was a great fighter. All-time great? No. Usyk is, in fact, in my view, an actual all-time great. It's fact. So what has she done compared to H.L. Wilson? Not jack shit. Well, I mean, you can kind of say that. I mean, I don't know enough. I don't think anyone looks at Caitlin Clark as the best in the league, though, if anyone truly knows about it. I just think they look at her as debatably the most popular. But anyway, let's see. This is a great question. Mike Rodriguez, realist, I know you believe Mike Tyson was overrated, so would you favor Usyk, Fury, Joshua to beat Mike Tyson in his peak? I would 100% favor Usyk and Fury to beat Mike Tyson. Yes, I would. I think Usyk would be way too much. I think he would actually be a bit too big for Mike Tyson, especially in terms of his reach and size. People forget that Mike was only around 5'11" or 5'10" with like a 72-inch arm reach. Excuse me. He was a bit thicker for his size, but you know, he was. I don't think he would have been able to compete with Usyk at all. I think Usyk would have stopped him. You know, there's always a wonder about Mike because Mike was one of those fighters that was really great at the peak of his powers, but he didn't really have any competition during his era during the 80s. And then by the time he lost to Buster Douglas, he clearly fell off a little bit. So it's a little bit hard to judge him, but I have to judge him the same way that I would an Ali or Usyk or any other fighter because I've seen many fighters change trainers, even Tyson Fury, and they still won some of the bigger fights. Mike Tyson did not. So I would 100% favor Usyk and Fury to beat him, no question. Joshua, maybe. That's a maybe. Joshua had problems with smaller fighters. Do I think Joshua would have a great chance, though? Yeah, I think he would have a chance. Joshua is definitely more vulnerable, I think, than Fury, though, or what's his name? Fucking Usyk. I think he's definitely more vulnerable than Fury or Usyk, though, on the inside, especially because he can be a bit chinny and he does not prefer inside fighting. I'll tell you this much. I would give Joshua a good chance to defeat Tyson, though. I would. I give him a decent shot. You know, anyway. Tiffany, nobody said anything about rankings. Don't act like she doesn't get unwarranted criticism and hate. Well, some of the criticism I think is probably warranted, but a lot of it does come from that side of black athletes or black fans because they think she's getting too much attention. And I get it. But there's a difference between someone getting attention and being overrated, by the way, though. So we got to be careful of that as well. No, she gets unwarranted praise. You mean she hasn't done it? Nothing special. Like I said, that's out of my fucking league. I don't watch WNBA. Who would win, Joshua versus Rico? I mean, I would fucking, I would assume Joshua. But to be fair, Joshua's looked like fucking shit as of late. He's completely done, in my view. As for Rico, I think that I'll give Rico this. I think he would legit actually beat some of the top 30, maybe even some of the top 20 guys. Like if you were to put him against Charles Martin, I wouldn't be shocked if he were to win that fight. If you were to put him against even a Joe Joyce, I wouldn't be shocked if he were to win that, to be honest with you. At least the Joe Joyce right now, I wouldn't be shocked. Would I favor him over Frank Sanchez or anything or a Cabello? No, obviously not. But I mean, if he defeated some guy that was like top 30, top 20, I would not legitimately be shocked. I would not be. Anyway, could be Joshua avenging Tyson again. I mean, possibly. Maybe you mean avoiding. I'm not quite sure. From what I heard, you know, if you're talking about Fury there, you know, I heard that fight was supposed to happen. I would favor Fury in that fight. Fury definitely looks a little bit older, but you can still tell he's got a lot of talent. Kenny Porter, stop my fight. Anyways. Oh my goodness. Anyway. Yeah, so you're saying her praise is unwarranted and unworthy again, making my point. Anyway. There are rumors Loma returning to boxing. Who do you think he should fight now being an old man? I think you should start off with Emmanuel Navarrete. Actually, that was the first one that I kind of was recommending for him. I think that that was a great start. Navarrete, I don't know if he's quite top 10 pound for pound like what a lot of other people are saying, but I do think that he is a legit talent. I think he's someone that brings a lot of pace and a lot of fire, and he's more similar to Lomachenko's size. They're really both more similar in 130 pounders. So I think that's a great first fight. And then after that, I'd like to see the Tank fight. I just think Shakur is just, I think he's a bit too big right now. And also just a bit too skilled. I mean, if Shakur fights at 135 and if Loma regains the titles there, then yeah, obviously they got to fight. But for now, I think Loma's good at 130 or 135, and I think Shakur is good at 140. So yeah, let's see. Baron Avola says Michael Spinks was super dominant light heavyweight in the era of three Muhammads, Kwai, Eddie Mustafa, and Dwight Saeed. Marvin Johnson and that Scottish guy. Yeah, he was a great fighter. He was a bit undersized for heavyweight when he did fight there, though. That's also another thing about Usyk. I think he clearly fought in the greatest cruiserweight era ever. I don't think it's really that close because he beat the undefeated Michael Hunter. He defeated undefeated Murat Gassiev. He defeated undefeated Glovacki. He defeated undefeated Maris Bradis. All those guys you could debate were A-grade talents at the time. Anyway, people saying that she changed the game is not unwarranted. Praise what she has done really well. You can change the game, to be fair, and still not win a championship. There are people who change the game and have not done shit in terms of winning a championship. I think that even Allen Iverson, to a degree, overall was one of those guys. Anyways, let's see. On ESPN today, people talking about an injury. There's a player talking about wanting to injure her, and fans are supporting it for her team, supporting it. Fans. I will state this, kind of like when Larry Bird was around, because he was a Caucasian player and there was so much attention around him, there was a lot of jealousy and bitterness from a lot of the black players, kind of understandably, and I get it, but to the point to where it was just malicious because they said, why does this white boy get more attention? And I mean, that's just a part of the sport. Like Patrick Mahomes got more attention than probably any other Caucasian quarterback when he ended up getting in the NFL. And obviously a certain amount of Caucasians didn't like that either. So, I mean, it's just kind of normal. But the point overall is that that's just going to happen. But I think that people got to stop kind of getting mad when someone gets that much attention, and that becomes a lot of bitterness and just a lot of jealousy there. But anyway, let's see. So let's see. Vladimir Klitschko or Holmes. Fuck, man. So I'm going to state this, and this is a point that a lot of people may disagree with me on. Klitschko and Holmes, in my personal view, they're really on a similar level. And I know that a lot of people are going to heavily disagree because they'll say, what are you talking about? Larry Holmes is way better. Larry Holmes, to be honest with you, other than Ken Norton, who he had a fucking split decision with, by the way, there just really was not a lot of talent in that era. There just wasn't. You had guys like Pinkleton Thomas and, James Bonecrusher Smith. Like a lot of those guys were not that good. And don't get it twisted, Larry was a great fighter. I think he's a little bit underrated. But he just was not a part of the best era. I think they're on a similar level. To be honest, they're pretty much the exact fucking same because they both were a part of an era that was very weak, and they had all these title defenses. And then when a fighter came around that actually could compete with their skill set, they kind of lost at an older age. I think they actually were both in their late 30s when they lost. But anyways, that being stated, I'm going to state this point kind of more on the racial element. There's always double standards against certain fighters, no matter what demographic they are. And there's also positive standards. So when you take a look at a Mexican fighter, people may just immediately assume that they're very flat-footed or something like that, even maybe if they're not, although a lot of them are. But the positive stereotype that they may get is that they have a lot of heart and that they're all about blood and guts. When you talk about a Caucasian fighter, there's never going to be a narrative against them that they're usually boring, usually. That being stated, people may say that they're overrated because of their race. When people talk about black fighters, the double standards against them obviously can be a lot more extreme at times. People can say they're boring. People can say they're this. But the positive thing is that they're oftentimes ranked much greater at times if they don't accomplish as much, even at times as non-black fighters. So Terrence Bud Crawford, for example, and don't get it twisted, he was not the only one like this, because Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez was a bit like this, as well as Naoya Inoue. But Crawford, for the longest time, throughout three weight divisions, overall, he hadn't even fought the likes of Deshaun Porter yet, and people were saying that overall, well, he's he's up there with guys like Mayweather, and it's like, how can you say that? It doesn't make any sense. The only two great wins in his career are Gamboa and Postal, and even those are like, were those really A grade wins for sure? So like and I think they were, but you had a several inch reach advantage over Gamboa in a weight class he clearly didn't belong by about 2 weight classes. So I mean, you should have won that fight considering how great you were. And then Postal, I mean, great fighter, but does anyone say, wow, Postal's like, one of the better fight? Like, no one says Postal's one of the better fighters of the generation. So that's what I kind of mean. So Larry Holmes, Larry Holmes overall, people immediately put him in the top 5 heavyweights of all time, but they don't put Vladimir Klitschko there. Why? Because Larry Holmes, was he really fighting better competition than Klitschko? I don't think so. I mean, one of the better contenders he beat of his era was fucking Jerry Cooney. So I mean, the point is that black fighters oftentimes they do deal with a lot of double standards. They deal with a lot of tearing down from the media and from a lot of the non-black fans. Hell, even a lot of black fans, to be honest with you. But they also a lot of the times receive greater rankings because people automatically assume that because they're black fighters that they have the potential to be a Muhammad Ali or Floyd Mayweather or something like that. And we've seen it with guys like Crawford, overall, or guys like that, or even Larry Holmes. Because to be honest with you, Larry Holmes and Klitschko are pretty much on the same level because they both were a part of very weak eras, a lot of title defenses, Anyway, but let's see. B Wayne, they comparing that bitch to Jordan. That's the shit you be hearing. Caitlin Clark. I've never heard anyone compare Caitlin Clark to Michael Jordan, to be fair. But hey, we'll see. If anything, people praise Jokic. Jokic was, to be fair, Jokic is an all-time great player. He's a top 20 to top 30 NBA player of all time. I will say this. Jokic has proved in his most recent playoff outings, though, that he has come up short. And I'm tired of this fucking defending his ass. Overall, when he shot 14 total fucking shots, or not even 14, he shot 7 total. Like he pulled a Kobe fucking Bryant in the Game 7 Suns game, in one of his, Game 7s of the past 2 years. Then another one, you're supposed to be debatably the best offensive player in the league. It's not supposed to be close, and you go out like that. And he had probably the worst series of all time against the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves, for whatever fucking reason, just own that team. And the Denver, it's not all his fault. I think they're going to have to make some moves, but Jokic was fucking terrible in that series. So great player, one of my favorite players to watch. It's time for him to get a little bit of criticism, and that did affect his legacy to a degree. Jason Kidd was overrated too. I actually think Jason Kidd is a little bit underrated. I think he's actually one of the top 10, probably most underrated, because I never hear about Jason Kidd. I always hear about Allen Iverson. I always hear about Steve Nash. Jason Kidd, in my view, was fucking better than both of them. Jason Kidd took the fucking Jersey Nets to 2 finals appearances. And then as a role player, he still did stuff later on with other teams. Because, if we're talking about Jason Kidd, once again, we're getting off track of boxing here, but I'm enjoying this conversation. Jason Kidd has to be counted as good as Allen Iverson. Right? We're not really going to put fucking Allen Iverson over Jason Kidd. To me, that's ridiculous. I can't put Steve Nash over him either. I definitely can't put Chris Paul over him. The only point guards that I can think of that would truly be over a guy like Jason Kidd would be obviously Magic Johnson, Isaiah Thomas, Steph Curry, if you consider him a PG, although he's kind of a combo guard. Guys like maybe Oscar Robertson, although he's a tad bit overrated to me, and a few others. John Stockton, maybe. Other than that, it's like, who the fuck else can you put over Jason Kidd? He'd be right after that for me. The only thing you can say about him is that I don't think he ever won an MVP, but Jason Kidd was a phenomenal passer. He's like one of the top 5, top 10 passers of all time. I think a decent defender to my recollection. And he was someone that legit had fucking impact. He was, someone that didn't have the most talented team around him, and he took multiple finals runs. So, to me, Jason Kidd actually was a little bit underrated. Isaiah Thomas better than Stockton and Jason Kidd. Well, yeah, I would agree with that, though. But you're talking about a 2-time champion. I think the comparison with Jason Kidd is more like Steve Nash and Allen Iverson, and he's better than both of those players. He's also better than Chris Paul, by the way, or more impactful. Also, they hate the guts. That's my point. I used to hate him. LMAO. I'm not even talking about her no more. You guys, man. Anyway. Tiffany, that's preposterous. 5 categories in the NBA. Stockton leads in 2. Greatest P GOAT, full stop. Greatest PG. I'm not gonna say he's the greatest PG because I think you have to win an NBA championship to be considered like the greatest point guard of all time. I don't think anyone beats Magic Johnson. Although to be fair, Magic, I mean, you could basically fucking debate was basically like a fucking small forward. I mean, the man was like what 6 fucking 9 or 10. He was huge. But I mean, I'll put Magic Johnson up there because he played that position. Then after that, I think you probably have to go with Steph Curry if you consider him a point guard because he did surpass Isaiah Thomas after his most recent. I thought he kind of already was right there after his third championship, but after his fourth, it's not really a conversation, especially since Isaiah Thomas also has one Finals MVP and he has no regular season MVPs. Although to be fair, he was close, I think once or twice. But anyway, but Stockton would be in my top five though. He just because he was great. I don't think a lot of people realize how great he actually was. He just wouldn't be top three for me. But anyway, I'd like to see Joseph Parker make a comeback. I'd like to see a fucking rematch with Fabio Worthy, to be honest. I thought that was kind of a bullshit stoppage. I'd like to see that. Stockton is a stat patter. Isaiah Thomas led his team to 2 championships. Yeah, he did. I'm not going to go as far to say Stockton was a stat patter because I think if you're a stat patter, you're going to look more like Russell Westbrook. Like Russell Westbrook to me is a stat patter. And listen, there's a difference between trying to make your stats look good and a stat patter. Like everyone tries to make their stats look good. Don't get it twisted. And there are times where players, even great players, try to pad their stats a little bit. But when you're going on like Russell Westbrook, and your centers and your small forwards or your power forwards are not getting any fucking rebounds and you're like stripping the ball from them. And then on top of that, here's my problem if you're a point guard. If you're a point guard and you're averaging 20 to 30 points a game or like over 25 points a game, and you know you're also averaging 10 assists and 10 rebounds, like people will also take a look at LeBron and say he does everything, he does this. Yeah, but you're not supposed to. When you're a point guard, you're not supposed to average that many points. That's why when people take a look at John Stockton or Magic Johnson, they're not that impressed because they're like, he only averaged this amount of points. Yeah, but you're supposed to. If you're a point guard, you're supposed to keep the flow of the game. You're not supposed to be scoring this, and this, like unless you have to take over the game as like a center, like what Magic Johnson did in that one playoff game, I believe, when Kareem was out. So I don't think I can go as far as to say he's a stat patter. I think Allen Iverson was a bit of a fucking stat patter. I think he was a shot jacker. But you know, to say John Stockton, no, I can't agree with that. Sorry. Anyway, let's see. Spurs or OKC? To be honest, AJ Wilson, I don't fucking even remember what she looks like. Spurs or OKC? I'm going with OKC. I think they have a little bit too much talent. I'd be surprised. I wouldn't be shocked, but I'd be a little bit surprised. I think OKC again all the way. They have too much. I think Shea's too great of a player. He does do the flopping bullshit, in my view, a little bit too much. But he's clearly an all-time great level player. Anyway. Sean Boxon says, you would anger Mike Tyson fanboys by not having him on the Mount Rushmore greatest boxers of all time. I can't imagine how they would react if you stated that he wasn't an all-time great. Well, he's not. How can you listen? My point is this. So many of these channels, especially, and we're talking about the LDBC new media channels right now. Obviously, we know that there's like BDA boxing and fight film, all that other shit, who are like Caucasian channels or whatever the fuck they are, and they, disgrace black boxers. We all know that. But just talking about the LDBC new media, the ones that go after non-black fighters, they'll tell you that Vasyl Lomachenko lost every big fight in his career, even though he beat Walters, Linares, George Kambosos, overall. And to be fair, Kambosos was a bit more wore down. Also beat Gary Russell Jr. and Guillermo Rigondeaux, who they said was ducking. He was ducking, by the way. They'll claim that he lost every big fight in his career, that he's not an all-time great. And I mean, you could debate it. In my view, Lomachenko is on the borderline of all-time great. He just makes it. But then they'll tell you that Mike Tyson is like a top 5 heavyweight of all time. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, when did Mike Tyson ever step up in class and actually beat anybody? Like, what are you talking about, dude? And I've stated this. Lomachenko is actually more similar to Bernard Hopkins than what people want to admit. Because Bernard Hopkins, once again, he defeats Kelly Pavlik, Antonio Tarver, Trinidad, overall, and who else? Winky Wright. Let me just ask you a question. Could Joe Calzaghe not defeat all those fighters at his peak? He could, right? Like, more than likely. Roy Jones Jr. would absolutely run through all those guys at his absolute peak. James Toney, more than likely, would probably beat all those guys. So what the fuck are we taking a look at Bernard Hopkins for? Like, beating all those guys was just some fathomable thing. Like, I understand he was older, but if, at the point we have to take a look for your age. Like, if Artur Beterbiev is 41 years old, and if he can beat guys like Bivol and David Benavidez, okay, then the standard has to be set. You know what I mean? So the point is that yeah, Bernard can beat guys like fucking Winky Wright and Kelly Pavlik and Trinidad, guys who are either smaller than him or guys that clearly can't compete with his talent. You know, but then if he faces Chad Dawson, if he faces Jermaine Taylor, if he faces Joe Calzaghe, he ain't beating him. So really, Vasily Lomachenko, believe it or not, he's really more fucking comparable to Bernard Hopkins, and Bernard is an all-time great. He's the most overrated all-time great boxer of all time. He is. Because anytime he would face a legit talent that actually could compete with his talent or size, he wouldn't fucking beat him. And you take a look at a lot of those guys that he defeated at middleweight, those guys were fucking bums. Like, you cannot name a lot of the guys that he defeated there. The best guy he ever defeated at middleweight was fucking Felix Trinidad, a guy who was really a natural 147 pounder. Tell me I'm fucking wrong right now. Name me another guy that was greater than Trinidad at middleweight, overall that he defeated that had a bigger name. You can't fucking name, or not even just a bigger name, but that would have been a pound worthy or better fighter. You can't fucking name one. You can't. Like, it just is what it is. Anyway, let's see. But that's my thing about Mike Tyson. No, he's not an all-time great. How can you be an all-time great, overall? I mean, it's on the borderline because, I mean, to be fair, I'd put him right around the same level as Gennady Golovkin. But the fucking point is that how can you be an all-time great when you have one pound-for-pound level win in your career and you were really supposed to win that fight? You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's whatever, Anyway, let's see. Vladimir and Holmes is 1A, 1B. I pretty much agree. They're the same fucking level for me. Same level. Same exact level. But let's see. Many channels used to say Usyk would beat Ali. Don Box and a few others made vids about it. I mean, well, here's the thing. I'm not going to go too wild on that because, listen, here's my view of it. If you were to strip Ali from the 60s or the 70s, yeah, Usyk would probably fucking knock him out within 7 rounds. He probably would. Even with Ali's athleticism, take a look at Ali's fights against Ken Norton, strip him from those fights, and you tell me that he beats Oleksandr Usyk today. It's not happening. But the point is that I can't compare that because Ali was in a completely different time. I can't compare Joe Louis or Rocky Marciano to today's fighters. I also can't compare them to guys like Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier. They're just different times. When you talk about especially a separation of 20 years, things are just different. They just are. So I just don't think that it's a fair comparison because you have older skills combined with the newer skills that are introduced, and then those guys are able to combine those skills of what they've seen from their predecessors, and then they're also able to come up with new stuff. So not every generation is just completely more talented than the last. I'm not saying that, but a lot of the times it can be the case. So I can't just sit around and say that Ali, he'd get the fucking shit kicked out of him by Usyk. It's like, yeah, fine, but it's like they're separated by like 50 years. So it's like, of course, you know what I mean? I can't fucking completely go into that. But anyway, a greater comparison, a greater of who would win would be more like Lewis versus Usyk, like Lennox Lewis, because those guys aren't super far apart. You know what I mean? They're far apart still, but yeah. Ali versus motivated Usyk is a great fight. If Ali was able to be around today, because they're the exact same size, actually. If he were to be around today, and if he were able to adapt his style even better, it would be an excellent fight. It really would. It would be a phenomenal fight. But yeah, Caitlin Clark ain't Allen Iverson, fucker. I don't know who said Caitlin Clark is Allen Iverson. I don't think it was me. I don't think anyone else said it in this comment section. If someone did, hey, whatever it is. Allen Iverson, by the way, one of the most overrated athletes of all time. One great run in the fucking playoffs with Larry Brown. It's so funny because I always hear from these LeBron fans, especially, or these guys, this guy didn't do anything without this coach. Curry didn't do anything without, Kerr. Tim Duncan didn't do anything without this guy. It's always the players that actually never do shit without their coaches that never get the fucking criticism. But I think it's because people are compensating because that player is greater and they know that they need to tear them down more. Like, no one ever tries to tear down Allen Iverson because there's no fucking reason to. There's so much shit to say about him. Like, he's the only player I've seen in multiple seasons that shot below fucking 40%. I've literally never seen that from another player other than maybe like Kobe fucking Bryant, who also was a shot jacker, by the way. But I mean, the point overall is that Allen Iverson had one deep finals run, was pretty much lucky to have that. I'll give him credit for that. Never made, without Larry Brown, never made another fucking deep finals run ever again. Never happened. So that's why I say, I mean, Allen Iverson is probably a top 10 shooting guard of all time, and it's a fucking debate at that. So he's lucky to be there. Anyway, Usyk is bigger and is a southpaw, which would be hell for Ali. Well, actually, they're about the same size because they both have 78 inches of reach. They're both exactly 6'3". I think Usyk is a bit girthier, but in terms of weight, they're really about the same because I think they're both around 230. So they actually would have been they would have been pretty much the same size. I think that if you once again, I think if you take Ali from the 60s or 70s, I think that I think Usyk beats the hell out of him, but I just don't think it's a fair comparison because they're just not the same era. I think that Holyfield or Tyson or Lennox Lewis or Riddick Bowe are more fair comparisons because they're more, similar. But anyway, I wonder how Ali versus Usyk, Kabiel, DDD, Parker, Ruiz, Zhang, Joyce, Fury, AJ look optics wise. LOL. Those would all be very interesting fights. It's very hard to tell. My thing about Ali is this. I know that people take a look at Ali and they'll be like, well, he would have destroyed him, blah, blah, blah. Even if you were to have him update his style and have him with the training techniques of today, I mean, he very well could. Here's the problem. If you take a look at Ali, he did actually have some deficiencies in the style. He, believe it or not, had more deficiencies in the style than what Oleksandr Usyk did, especially defensively. Ali had a very big problem with jabs, which you can see in the Ken Norton fight. He had a very big problem with left hooks, and he kept his hands down way too much, which is why oftentimes he would get knocked out, by guys like him. And then this is also another thing. Like, people will say, well, he got knocked down by this guy, like Fury got knocked down by Ngannou, blah, blah, blah. And listen, I understand. Ngannou was an MMA fighter. That being stated, I think Fury clearly did not take the fight seriously at all. But they'll be like, well, he got knocked down by Wilder. Keep in mind that Muhammad Ali got knocked down by Henry Cooper. You know what I mean? So, and Evander Holyfield got knocked down by Burt Cooper. So, I mean, we can go on for this for days. Anyway, but how do you think Muhammad Ali versus Moses would go? I think if you put Ali in this era, strip him from the 60s where things were not the same. Here's also another thing about Ali I'm going to state, and I'm not going to hold this against him because I don't think it would be fair. Ali was kind of the first of his time for his era, at least just in terms of his movement for the heavyweight division. I don't think there was a heavyweight that really moved around quite as well as him, and also had as good of a jab. Now, he still fought some great competition. Don't get it twisted. But when people say, well, no one moves around like Usyk today, no one moved around like Ali did. If you take a look at Sonny Liston, is Liston this major mover? Like, does anyone take a look? Like, take a look at Sonny Liston's fights. Back then it'd be like, oh my God, the footwork, the head, like no one ever says that. Liston was a bear. He was a good boxer for his time, but no one is like, oh, Liston, the speed, the footwork, the calculative, move. Like, no one ever says that. To be honest with you, a lot of the fighters that Ali fucking beat that were looked at as his greater wins, they were fucking slow guys. Liston was not a very fast guy. He was very powerful. He was a monster. He wasn't quick. In fact, he was very fucking slow. George Foreman was not the quickest guy. And he also was not the most technical guy either. So do we just discredit Ali for that? No, I don't. Because they were still great fighters for the time. They brought their own things, So, I mean, and to be honest, even Joe Frazier was not always the most technical guy. Joe Frazier had a great left hook, and to be quite honest with you, he did not have a great jab. You take a look at a lot of Joe Frazier's fights, he was not known for a jab. So, I mean, it is what it is. Anyway. That being said, like I said, to me, it's an unfair comparison because Ali just, he's from a completely different era. But anyway, Itama is still a kid with no real resume to even consider. I agree with that, which is why I say I can't fucking say that he's first in line right now. But he's definitely a very dangerous guy. Let's see. Usyk may indeed be Ali, but not because he's greater. I mean, yeah, I would agree with that, but because Usyk inherited Ali, Franz Liszt was a more advanced pianist than Mozart, because Liszt had the benefit. I do slightly agree with that. That being stated, I do think Usyk in that type of style also has brought also some of its, evolution of the game as well. But that being stated, I do agree with that. It's hard for me to just state that, well, this guy would kick this guy's ass from 50 years ago because they have the benefit of looking at some of the positives and the negatives, but then also improving and bringing some new stuff to the game. So if they're separated by 50 years, to me, it's just very hard to compare. Like, that would be comparing Roger Staubach to, like Patrick Mahomes. Now, I think Patrick Mahomes, of course, would be greater because he's won more championships, but to just take a look at their stats and be like, he sucks. Like, people... I remember when Cam Newton, who was one of my favorite quarterbacks, by the way, because he played for my Carolina Panthers, I remember when people were trying to say, well, yeah, Cam Newton only has a 59.7% passer rating, or not passer rating, excuse me, but completion percentage. But look, Dan Marino did too. It's like, yeah, but Dan Marino played in the 80s. Like the only one that was going above 60% passing completion was Joe Montana. That's why Joe Montana was so great. But anyway, but that's a great point made by Mr. Baron Evola. Same thing I was saying. B. Wayne says, even Lennox and Bo, seeing how they never faced one in their pro career. Well, that was Riddick Bowe's fault on that. Itama Praise seems odd to me, almost like some guys just want a new heavyweight king to be black. Listen, that is a part of the reason, especially Dante and some of these guys. They are going to go into this because they're trying to state that, well, Usyk is just so successful this era because he's not facing any black fighters and blah, blah. And to be fair, he did face Dubois and AJ. I mean, they're saying because the heavyweight division doesn't have as much black heavyweight talent. I mean, yeah, but that's been going on for the past how many years? And my thing is this, like, if you want to make that point, that's up to you. I don't personally agree with it because I still think that Usyk has defeated great talent, including black fighters. But the point overall is that it's like, dude, I never heard any of these narratives of Wilder. When Wilder was defeating these bums like Archer Pilska and Juan Duapas and older Chris Arreola, and like he literally was fighting bums of the fucking month. All I was hearing was about, oh, look at Wilder's 10 title defenses. Like all this are bullshit. Then the cheating allegations about, once again, I always state this. The cheating allegations about Fury never came out until he whooped his ass in the second fight. And they still cannot answer you logically how Fury cheated in those fights to this day. They still cannot. Anyway. But let's say. But listen, don't get it twisted, though. Moses Itama is a very skilled heavyweight, though. I do think that he has up next, unless Caballero, beats him to the punch. Dubois also owes Parker a fight for pulling out. One could debate that, but I mean, it's going to be hard to get that, especially since Dubois is the number one contender. He might take the fight though, because Parker was he lost his last fight or got damage on him. Anyway, Devos says, you excited for the fights this weekend? And no, Usyk did not ruin his legacy. I agree with you. I might do a video on it. I know it's like O'Shaquie Foster versus Ray Ford. I don't know who else is on. I am very excited for the White House card though. UFC though, I gotta admit that. I'm excited for the fight. I'm not overtly excited. I think Inoue versus Nakatani was like the last fight that I was majorly excited for. I was pretty excited for the Sanchez versus Torres fight. Unfortunately, that did not last long. It's a good fight. I just don't see either of them as like top 10 pound per pound guys. I have a less motivation for watching guys that I kind of see as like, I'm not gonna say middle of the pack because I think both of them are very talented. They're like A- for their weight class, but I just like I don't think anyone takes a look at them like Shakur, or anything like that. Now, I mean, if a greater fighter was moving up and waiting fighting them, like I don't know, like Inoue or something like that, or Stephen Fulton, then yeah, I'd have a lot more intrigue. And it's a great fight, but it's like it's what I would compare that fight kind of to is like a Robert Easter versus a what the fuck is that one African's name? The dude who Richard Comey. You remember him? Like I remember Richard Comey and or Comey, however you pronounce his name, versus Robert Easter happened. They were both undefeated and that was a great fight at the time. Robert Easter just pulled out of the fight. That's kind of what that fight reminds me of, just on like a higher skill level. That it's a good fight. I'm just not like bending over backwards for that fight to but it's a good fight. His legacy is cemented. Yes, I agree. Is Bivol fighting? He's fighting, but he's not fighting anyone that's that important. Anyway, let's see. BDA is one of my favorite channels. I mean, BDA definitely gets on some bullshit. I'm not gonna lie. There is a little bit of a racial element. To be fair, I've not watched much of him. So yeah, I'll talk about Kim later, but he does have a little bit of a racial element. I'm not gonna lie, in my view. Let's see. Oh man. Let's see. It says Odin says Loma didn't lose to Salido. The latter should have been disqualified for the low blows. Okay, so let me actually mention this point. A lot of the LDBC and new media channels, especially about the Haney Ryan Garcia situation, they'll say Ryan cheated. He was on steroids. He missed weight by it. But even before the steroids, they say he cheated by 3 pounds. Let me also tell you this. Orlando Salido, believe it or not, was actually caught on steroids at one point in time. This doesn't get mentioned. He also missed the weight by 2 pounds against Lomachenko, and he threw about 76 fucking low blows in that fight. Never gets mentioned. They only mention about how Salido whooped Lomachenko's ass All this in like his second professional fight, by the way, and like a fight that could have went either way. So to me, when someone makes that point, it's like completely disingenuous, and it shows that either A, they did not do their research, or they're trying to like grasp at straws. And don't get it twisted. I'm not saying that Lomachenko at times was not overpraised, but to just go this far, the hatred for just goes a bit too far, because they're very bitter that at times he was placed a little bit too high. And him being number one pound for pound at one time, by the way, was the rightful ranking at one time anyway. He was at one time the number one pound for pound fighter. Anyways, it may have been robbed against Haney, considering the only two clear rounds were Lomas. Well, I'm not going to claim that fight was a robbery. I thought it was a very close fight that could have went either way. I don't mind Haney getting the fight, but it does have to be mentioned that Haney was like 2 weight classes bigger than Loma, is what it is. And that's why that Ryan Garcia fight did so much damage. I don't care how much steroids Ryan was on. You were supposed to be a top 5 pound for pound fighter. And listen, I understand that Usyk looked like shit against Rico. That's understandable. Terrible performance. He at least won the fight and came back, and that guy was 20 pounds bigger. And I understand that, people say, well, he's a kickboxer. Understandable. I get it. He shouldn't have looked that bad. Haney legitimately lost that fight, of course, before it was called back. And he took that fight seriously. Like, Haney did not look out of shape in that fight. Now, I do think he underestimated him a little bit strategically, but also if you were a better defensive fighter, you would have not gotten knocked down like 3 or 4 fucking times in that fight. And it's not like Ryan Garcia looked the best he had ever looked. He still had stamina issues in that fight. It's not like Ryan Garcia was looking like he did against Mario Barrios. So that really did a lot of damage to his career, because when he defeated George Kambosos, who was like an A- fighter, but someone that was a little bit undersized, just slightly, and someone that, clearly got a great win over Teofimo, someone who was a bit unfocused for that fight, in my view, but someone that clearly, was never going to probably beat Teo in a rematch, and someone who was never going to last for long. You beat him and you beat Regis, and that was great. But then you faced the guy for the first time in your career that was similar in size and reach, and you pretty much got schooled in the second half of that fight. That was very bad for his brand, and that's why Haney cannot be in my top 5 pound for pound right now, because he did get. Let me give Haney a lot of credit here. I do think he gets overhated on, no matter what channels I look at, whether it's DL, DBC, New Media, or BDA, whatever the fuck it is. He is willing to get in the ring with anybody. I've seen him literally try to fight anybody. Loma, when Loma avoided that fight back then, and George Kambosos and Teo, who avoided the fight as well. He's literally been willing to get in the ring with anybody. But that Ryan Garcia fight did do a lot of damage to his career. That's why I cannot have him top 5 right now. But that's just my standards, because once again, I have the size rule. But anyway, the Salido fight was the dirtiest shit ever. And who was reffing? Lawrence Cole. Is that same motherfucker that was refereeing is that the same motherfucker who was refereeing Amir Khan versus Lamont Peterson? Is that same bastard? Maybe I'm wrong. That's also another terrible fucking referee. Same dipshit referee who also was responsible for Colon, Pritchard Colon, for I think having a massive fucking hand injury, letting that one American dude punched him behind the head like 17 fucking times. Anyway, dude should really not be allowed to ref ever again. Anyway, and really should be fucking jailed for negligence. Anyway, DBN, Aki, and Mutants state that the Matrix, Golovkin, and the Mutant, I'm actually not sure who the Mutant is, I'll have to check them out, and the Matrix, Golovkin, and Ramon Gonzalez are HBO hype jobs that failed boxing and aren't Hall of Famers, but have Mike on their Mount Rushmore. Yeah, and also Deontay Wilder. And this is why I say, they had Deontay Wilder top 6 pound for pound, but, Golovkin, that's why I say, whenever you take the look at their most overrated list, this is so interesting to me. And they'll say that, well, USA never runs out of talent. The majority of the greatest fighters of all time are black fighters and blah, blah, blah. So, and I agree with that. The majority of the greatest boxers of all time have usually been black American fighters or black fighters. So then how come you don't have one black fighter on your list that's overrated? It's just all non-black fighters? Interesting. Like, that's very interesting to me. So, you have the majority apparently, this person says, explain how you believe Robertson is slightly overrated. I'm going to have to see what the fuck he's talking about there. Who is your most overrated athlete of all time? Oh, fuck, man. I have like, oh, boy. Oh, man, we're going down a rabbit hole in this video, guys. Okay, my most overrated fucking athletes. Aaron Rodgers is up there. Every fucking year, I just always would hear, he's the best quarterback in the league. He's this, he's that. And it's like, dude, he hasn't even made a second Super Bowl. Like, what are you talking about? Like, for a 4-time MVP, he really didn't do that fucking much. And I've always told people this. He was one Jay Cutler fucking away from in that 2010 or 2011 NFC Championship. He was one injured Jay Cutler away from just being another fucking Dan Marino. That was it. Aaron Rodgers is, and don't get it twisted, great quarterback, top 10 of all time. But in terms of impact, one of the most fucking overrated players of all time, no question. Other overrated athletes: Mike Tyson, Bernard Hopkins, Oscar De La Hoya, Tommy Hearns. Who's another fucking overrated one? Let's see here. Allen Iverson, Kobe Bryant to a slight degree, LeBron to a slight degree. Who else is a bit overrated? Let's see here. Who the fuck else would I put? I mean, most overrated athletes of all time. That's a good fucking question. I used to think Clay Matthews was a bit overrated for NFL, but I mean, that was just kind of for a time. I mean, when I talk about most overrated, I'm thinking about like, do you still remain there? There's another quarterback I'm fucking missing. I know I am. Warren Moon is a bit overrated. People always talk about how fucking great he was. The man never even made an AFC or NFC championship. How the fuck are you going to be like, people will literally tell you that like Warren Moon was like a top 10 quarterback of all time. And then you take a look at his like statistics. Like the man had more fucking interceptions and touchdowns in the playoffs. Like, what are you talking about? The man, I think, made the second round like once or twice in his career, and then every other time got first rounded. Like, what? like even Cam fucking Newton and Donovan McNabb made a fucking Super Bowl. Like, what are you talking about? And don't get it twisted. I'm not claiming that those two quarterbacks are greater than Warren Moon, but Warren Moon was one of the more overrated ones. Who's a fucking another one? Let's talk about him. Max Holloway. Oh my God, Max Holloway, the most over fucking rated UFC fighter of all time. I don't even think it's a debate. I've never heard someone debated as a top 10 to top 20 fucking UFC fighter of all time, and he's literally almost lost every big fight of his career. First of all, he clearly fucking weight drains himself at one fight. I'm getting like fucking bent out of shape over these conversations. This might be the most I mean, I'm not angry. I'm just motivated. This might be the most motivated I've fucking been in a video for a while. Max Holloway, I've never seen someone have so many fucking excuses to why they lost fights. Clearly was bigger for 145 and really more of a natural 155 pounder. Was slightly outsized in some of his fights, like against Dustin and some of those guys. Gets like best boxer in the UFC, greatest featherweight of all time. Like, what are you talking about? He had 3 title defenses as a featherweight. He had 1 title defense against the Jose Aldo, who was great, but not quite the same after he got knocked out against Conor McGregor. Also was clearly fucking smaller than him, by the way. Another one against Brian Ortega. Great win, but does anyone take a look at Brian Ortega as like the creme de la creme? Like, no one's calling Brian Ortega an all-time great fighter. He's a great contender, but that was it. You know, and that's when he reached that. That really was what pushed Holloway into the brim, because Brian Ortega had so much of a big Mexican fan base and such of a big fan base behind him. He had the pretty blue eyes and the pretty face and the, you know, pretty boy face and all sort of stuff. And the Mexican fan base behind him, so many fans, and not just Mexicans, but so many people behind him, that when Holloway beat the shit out of him, it really upgraded him to a point. And it took so long for people to see the fighter he actually was. There's a reason why he's gotten outboxed and beaten by guys like Poirier, you know, and Topuria, and also beaten by Charles Oliveira and fucking Volkanovski. And like, it's not even these fights are close. Like the Ilya Topuria fight was not that competitive. And Ilya really is almost like a mix between a 135 and 140. Ilya Topuria is like one of the best fighters I've seen. I don't know much longer he's going to go. Greater than Holloway. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. Holloway, great fighter, most overrated UFC fighter of all time. Not fucking close. And that's the reason why he's lost to Oliveira. That's the reason, dominantly, by the way. It wasn't even close. That's the reason why he lost to Dustin Poirier. Not even close. That's the reason why he also lost to Volkanovski. Other than the second fight, other 2 fights are not close. Also lost to Ilya Topuria. Is what it is. You know, but anyway, let's take a look, man. Explain how you believe Robertson is slightly overrated. I got to be fucking honest, man. Oscar Robinson. That's what you're talking about. It's a little bit hard to compare Oscar Robinson. I think that he is slightly overrated just because I don't believe he's in the top 3. I think that he was great for his time. Don't get it twisted. He was great. Like, he was very impactful. I think that he's top 5. I just don't think that we can say that he's on the level of a Curry or a level of a Johnson, Magic Johnson, or that of a what's his fucking name? Isaiah Thomas. I just don't think we can compare him. I think he'd be right behind those guys. I don't think he'd be those guys because he was not able to do what they were able to do, especially without, well, to be fair, Magic Johnson had big men, but he had 5 championships. To be fair, Oscar was a part of an era that I believe only had 8 teams. So I give him a little bit of credit. He was very efficient. I think he even was shooting at like 48, 50%. So don't get it twisted. Oscar was not a bad player at all. He's not like as overrated as like fucking Russell Westbrook. Like Oscar was a legit G. Like he was a real monster. But you know, he was slightly overrated to a degree because I don't think I can put him in my top 10 of all time. Like, you know what I mean? I think when you start to debate him in the top 10 of all time, that to me is like, to me, Oscar Robertson is on the same level as Jerry West. And I would have to put Jerry West slightly over him because Jerry West at least made 9 finals appearances. Oscar only made 2. They both made a finals appearance and they both couldn't win without a big man. So to me, they're the same level. But, you know, Jerry West doesn't oftentimes get remembered in those conversations because if we're going to be real, he's a Caucasian player. So that's what I mean when I say that black players, or black athletes, oftentimes they are the recipient of, you know, double standards. They also can be the recipient of being ranked higher sometimes than what they actually deserve to be because they're just immediately assumed to be greater than all other races of athletes. So that's what I mean. Anyway, good night, everyone, or good day. Yeah, good to see you, Mr. Vaughn Jackson. You don't know shit about basketball. Well, hey, man, you know, up to you. Let's see. Usyk just needs to give Rico his rematch win dominantly and his legacy will be fine. I don't think much really needs to fucking happen. I mean, does anyone really? I mean, I don't think anyone's really calling for anyone. The Cooper curse. Yeah, no, for real. Yeah, fucking Michael Cooper. What the fuck is his name? Bert Cooper and what the fuck was the other Cooper? Bert Cooper and some other fucking Cooper, man. I can't remember. I completely forgot. Drawing a blank. Ali had no guard, no body punching, and was hittable. That is a very good point. That is a very good point. He was not a great body puncher. He did have some guard, but it was other than his upper body movement. If you got past that upper body movement and his movement, and if you were able to time his jab, he could be hittable. So that's why I say different eras. They were all slow in Ali prime and out of his prime, but they called Joe Louis slow. Joe Louis also was a bit overrated in my personal fucking view. But yeah, bro, you should say BDA's Discord. I'd have to fucking see. Man, I'm actually on fucking Discord because of I'm on Xbox and shit like that. I might have to open up my Instagram or something like that one of these days to grow my channel a little bit. I'm just not. I don't like, you know, doing the social media shit. But yeah, all they do is bitch about Crawford not rematching Canelo. That is fair. I mean, they did that all day today. I don't think Crawford owes Canelo a rematch. I think that he beat him. I think it's cool. I mean, would I like to see a rematch? Maybe if Canelo can make any adjustments. I mean, it'd be cool. I don't think Canelo would really be able to do much. I think that it pretty much would be the same, or Crawford would. I wouldn't be surprised if it was slightly more competitive, but I just think Crawford is too good, a little bit too lengthy, and someone that is just a little bit too good of a boxer and just at a better point in his career. I think that Crawford obviously is a bit older, but I think Canelo just has the more wear and tear of the two, although they are at comparable points. But Crawford is just a bit too good for him, I think. BDA is good when the Chief and Jimmy are on the show. I'd have to take a look, man. I'd have to see. I had to sign out of Discord, kept getting notifications. Yeah, the Discord is fucking rough, man. Facts, Haney fans didn't care when Salido popped dirty and fought dirty against Loma, and Haney outweighed Loma by 30 pounds, but they want to cry about Ryan. Agreed. I have to agree with that. Loma and Bud was 1A, 1B for pound for pound in 2017 to 2019 time frame. Well, here's my fucking thing, man. To me, it's not even 1A, 1B. I mean, when you talk about skills, Crawford was always up there, but here's my problem. You have to prove yourself against the fucking best. I don't give a shit how talented you are. And if you're fighting guys like I'm sorry, but like from his fucking time frame after the Victor Postal fight all the way right before the Sean Porter fight, like no one gives a fuck that you fought those guys. Like, oh man, Jerry Jean, wow, like that's great. Like, wow, like who fucking cares? I mean, you fought Jeff Horn, but clearly Pacquiao didn't take him seriously. And a lot of people don't even believe he fucking won that fight in the first place. And I always tell people this, well, like, you know, he defeated Jeff Horn. It's like, there are certain fighters that win a title that very fucking obviously are not going to keep it for long. Buster Douglas was one of those guys, you know, overall. You know, I'm thinking of other ones, you know, John Ruiz was one of those fucking guys. You know, George Kambosos was, although he was better than most, one of those guys. You know, there are certain guys that are like that. does anyone really believe Ricardo Mayorga also was one of those guys? Does anyone truly fucking believe that Jeff Horn was going to defeat Sean Porter or Kell Brook or Danny Garcia? Any one of those fucking guys? The answer is no. Like, so I mean, come on, like, stop bullshitting. Anyway, Haney needs that rematch with Ryan. I think that he partially does. I think that that's a part of it. Now, that's a rematch that, in my view, does need to happen. Ezekiel Lopez, yeah, especially with that FUTV guy. Kim and fucking Crawford, Turkey AI memes. Jesus. I think Cody Garbrandt is the most overrated UFC fighter ever. Well, I'm not going to say he's the most overrated fighter ever. I'm still going with Max Holloway, at least recently, and I'm going to tell you why. I don't think anyone will put Cody Garbrandt in the top 10 or top 20 of all time. I don't see Cody Garbrandt ever there. I think that he had the best success for an early on fighter probably ever in their career, getting the title shot so early. Other than maybe Alex Pereira. But I mean, the fucking problem is that after Dominic Cruz, he kind of exposed a lot of his faults. I think that was a case, and Dominic Cruz, in my view, is debatably a top 10 UFC fighter of all time. Fantastic fighter, although he's very unorthodox. To be fair, though, he was bigger than a lot of his opponents. So if you want to kind of use that, you could. But to be fair, he also did defeat Faber and TJ Dillashaw, who was kind of similar in size. But that overall being stated, I think Cody was kind of like the perfect style for Dominic, because Dominic is a guy that like is kind of praised for his boxing, but it's not real boxing. It's more like this weird looping shit where he does get out of range. But then when he fought a fighter who actually was a real like boxer for that style for MMA, then he had a lot of fucking problems. And, Cody kind of, and the cut over the eye didn't help either for the rest of the fight. But then when he fought someone that actually knew how to take his style like TJ, we saw what happened. Cody Garbrandt, by the way, back then was such a fucking moronic douchebag. He was so unwatchable on the fucking, he was so unwatchable on the fucking Ultimate Fighter. Oh my God. That dude has very few brain cells, and it shows in his fucking fighting style. I was very happy when TJ whooped his ass. I'll tell you that much, or at least knocked him out. That being said, TJ kind of showed some of his true colors later on as well. So I'll say that, but I'm not going to say that because I don't see Cody. For me, like, you can't be only overrated for like a certain amount of time, because there are so many athletes or fighters that like I've seen where it's like, oh, well, this guy is like, if someone said Shakur is going to be the next Muhammad Ali, I'm not going to call him overrated, because who fucking knows? I mean, do I think it's a bit fast? Sure. And that's also another thing. Like, people have problems with this fighter being compared to the next great, but then when it's their same race of fighters, they don't have a problem with it. Like, that like Dante will have a problem, with Loma or Usyk being compared there, but when it comes to Shakur, there's no fucking problem. So I mean, that we have to be consistent there. But Cody, to me, had the fastest start out of almost any other fighter, and also the quickest downfall. He had the biggest, success and then topple off that I've ever seen. But Max Holloway is the most overrated because he's just lost so many big fights, and people compare him to like it's literally insane who they compare him to. Like, it's no, sorry, but I got to go with Max Holloway. But anyway, Tiffany Cook, Oscar Robinson is better than Stockton by far. I don't think it's by far. But I think I'll give you that. I think he's better than Stockton. I just don't think he's better than Curry or Isaiah Thomas or Magic Johnson. I think that's fair, in my opinion. I get it. One big win against Dominic Cruz and never did anything again. Very true. He was to be honest with you, Cody Garbrandt was kind of the Fernando Vargas of MMA. Like, he had a very early start, got that great win over Cruz, kind of like Vargas did over Winky Wright, and he was expected to do big things. He actually, I think, was even expected to defeat Felix Tito Trinidad. Then when he fought a style that could handle him, didn't do much again after that. But anyway, he's the George Kambosos of MMA. I actually think that he's more like the Fernando Vargas. George Kambosos, he's more like the Sean Strickland of MMA. He's someone that is talented, but you never expected him to fucking do the things that he did. That, to me, is a more accurate comparison. Cody is more of the Fernando Vargas. You could tell he had real talent, but after that fight, he was just never the same. Like, he had real talent, and if he would have not lost to TJ, I think he would have beaten some guys that would have been legitly like real deal fighters. But TJ was just too smart for him. Anyway, but let's see. Stockton isn't even a top 30 player. Well, I mean, I would debate that he's top 30. If he's not top 30, then he's at least top 50. You know, like he's above guys like Scottie Pippen in my view, that's for sure. You know, would I place him above guys like Jason Kidd? I mean, to me, they're on the same level. Would I place him above Steve Nash? Probably. Would I place him above CP3? Yes. CP3 is one of the biggest fucking choke artists I've ever seen. CP3, and man, is like, it's always one of those guys that you fucking want to kind of win, but it's like, fuck, dude. Oh man, he has like the most blown leads, I think, of all time, of like 2-0 leads. Like he fucked up against Damian Lillard and the Trailblazers. He fucked up against the Spurs, I think. He fucked up against Giannis and the Bucks when they were more talented than the Bucks. He fucked up against Houston when they were up 3-1, you know, in Lab City. Like he fucked up so many times, you know. But Stockton to me is like a top 5 or top 6 point guard of all time. I would just have him behind only Magic Johnson, Curry, Steph Curry, obviously, Isaiah Thomas, Oscar Robinson. Those are the only guys I would have behind him. He's definitely better than fucking Allen Iverson, though. I'll give you that much. I don't think that's a debate. Anyway, Ezekiel, you have to look at the PDA hate videos the same way you look at the LDBC glove gate videos. Oh, man. What do you think of Larry Holmes' jockstrap quote towards fucking Marciano? I feel it may be the other way around. I've never fucking seen that one, actually. I'm assuming you're talking about Larry Holmes. You know, saying that Rocky Marciano won't be able to hold. Rocky, in my view, is a little bit underrated these days because for a guy that started boxing at age 26 and a guy that actually knocked out, like people don't understand how fucking undersized Rocky Marciano actually was. This guy had Miguel Cotto's and Manny Pacquiao's reach, weighed like 185 pounds at maximum. Fucking, and also, what else? Also was like, what, 5'11"? Like this dude literally was smaller than fucking Mike Tyson. Literally would have been like a light heavyweight or a super middleweight today. And he was knocking out actually guys that would have been like legit heavyweights that day. Like he was knocking out guys that were 220, like Jersey Joe fucking Walcott, who had like a 7 to 11-inch reach advantage over him. I don't think people realize how fucking insane Rocky was to actually defeat some of those guys, like Archie Moore, who actually was legit pound for pound at the time, and Jersey Joe Walcott and Ezra Charles, and also several top 10 contenders of the era, and a few number 1 contenders. That's why I place Rocky Marciano so highly. I understand why people think he's overrated, but when you actually understand what he kind of did, even though some of those guys were older, they were still at greater points. Like kind of like what Archie Beterbiev would be right now, what a Bernard Hopkins was during his early 40s. It's pretty fucking amazing what he was actually able to do. You know, yeah, and I'll tell you what, a lot of people don't know this. Ali was a big Rocky Marciano fan. He gave Marciano a lot of fucking credit. And he said Marciano would give him the toughest fight out of any other fighter. Would he really? I don't fucking know. More than likely, probably not, just because he was so small. But I mean, Rocky was a bit rough around the edges, but he was fucking phenomenal with what he was able to do. That's why I give Rocky so much credit. And yes, I do have Rocky Marciano over Joe Louis, in my view. Tiffany Cook says Babe Ruth is also overrated. But Tiffany, I'm just going to state this. I love you, man, but I'm noticing that the majority of the athletes that you're saying are overrated tend to be Caucasian. Like, I'm just wondering. Like, this is why I kind of say there's a little bit of a LDBC / new media affiliation there. Don't get it twisted, though. I agree with some of your points. Babe Ruth, I do think probably is a bit overrated. Listen, baseball is out of my league. I only started watching it recently because that fucking Japanese dude, Shohei Ohtani, Jesus Christ, that guy's a monster. That being stated, greatest baseball player of all time. I can't even begin. I mean, obviously, Babe Ruth, he's in the conversation a lot. But to me, I can't really count him because he was only a part of a league that only was mainly with Caucasian players and wasn't even like the whole nation. It was like only like half the country. So that's a fair point, I think. I think you can say he was a bit overrated. Guys like Hank Aaron and who the fuck was that? Reggie Jackson. That's his fucking name. The guy that played in The Naked Gun. One of the best comedy movies. Reggie Jackson was a fucking killer. He could be up there as well. There, of course, was a lot of fucking. I was actually named after a baseball player, by the way. You know, I'll give you guys a hint. He once upon a time was married to Halle Berry. So, fucking hint. Anyway, but there we go. Let's see. One-sided cooking and Stone Cold for rematch. I guess Bud should have rematched Benavidez, Mean Machine, Postal, etc. Yeah, and no, I know what you mean. You have a point because Bud resume was garbage truck juice in 2017. Fucking uh, IBFP quote, the 2019 time frame, but he improved it. Well, yeah, he definitely improved, but this is my thing. It's like these guys are apparently all about resume, but it's like, how can you get pissed off? They're like, Crawford was on the pound for pound list for so long. It's like, dude, right, but you can move down the list if you're not consistently fighting good competition. Like it just is what it is. I don't understand the big surprise. It's like these guys are so blinded by the racial bias here. It's like Lomachenko was literally defeating guys like Linares and fucking Rigondeaux and Nicholas Walters and Gary Russell, literally running through fucking guys and became a 3-weight division champion. And Crawford is like, oh, Jose Benavidez, Aegis Kaviaskis, Julius Ndongo. It's like, how do you expect Lomachenko to not be over him? The skill sets were somewhat comparable, at least at the time. Now, of course, in hindsight, I don't think he's as skilled as Crawford, of course. But the thing overall is that, yeah, he deserved to be above Crawford at the time. People are going to be pissed at all they want to. I don't care. If Crawford's, let me just ask you something. If Lomachenko's career ended after he defeated Jorge Linares, and if Crawford's career ended after he defeated Jeff Horn, who has the greater career? It's Lomachenko. Not even a question. And certain people get pissed off at that. Don't care. But anyway, let's see. Jerry West also had Elgin Baylor on his team, mostly, and didn't win nothing until Old Chamberlain. That's true. Won the title for them, and at least Robertson won an MVP. And West got a sympathy finals MVP for losing. That's very true. Well, to me, West and Robertson are on the same level. Robinson, I think, also had some talent. I don't remember. I think it was with the Cincinnati team. I think it was like the Cincinnati Bucks for a while or something like that. I don't remember. But yeah, but to me, they're on a similar level because they both couldn't win without the big man. They just couldn't. Another one of the more underrated players of all time, actually, in my view, was Bob Pettit. He was a Caucasian player, by the way, who actually beat Bill Russell and the Boston Celtics. One of the only two teams to ever fucking do so. By the way, I think up there with Jerry West and Wilt Chamberlain. Wilt Chamberlain also, by the way, great player, but not my top 5 because he only won 2 championships. He's right there with LeBron and Shaq, in my view. My top 10 basketball players of all time. Number 1, obviously, I'd have to have. Well, I mean, it's a debate between Michael Jordan, Bill Russell, and Kareem. I'd have to have Michael Jordan at number 1 just because of what he did. I mean, 5 MVP within such a short amount of time, within really 13 and a half seasons of total playing, like a defensive player of the year, multiple defensive first all NBA teams, 5 MVPs, multiple scoring titles. I don't even remember how many scoring titles, 6 championships, 6 finals MVPs, beat multiple teams that I would claim are more talented than his. And I mean, proficient, probably the most proficient shooting guard of all time, and efficient one. He'd have to be number 1, just in my view. Kareem, probably slightly after that, but there's I'll probably put Bill Russell at 2, actually, just to be honest with you. Kareem at number 3, just because Kareem at times, he wasn't quite as impactful as either a Bill or a Michael. Although, to be fair, he did play with more teams. After that, I'd have to have Magic Johnson. And I know people are going to be like, what? Where's LeBron? Listen, LeBron is a great player, but he's 4-6 in the NBA Finals. There's a reason for that. I've never seen a player receive so much fucking talent in their career and literally have so many excuses for not winning. He fucked up the 2011 Dallas Mavericks series. The 2014 series with the Spurs was a complete fucking blowout, and he was really lucky to win that 2013 series. He really should have lost that. And he really was kind of punking out, before Ray Allen got that one. To be fair, he did show up in Game 7, though. Got blitzkrieged in 2017 against the Warriors when they had comparable talents. Although the Warriors, this is my thing about LeBron. It's like Larry Bird was always slightly out-talented against the LA Lakers, but at least he took them to 6. LeBron can barely take them to 5, and it's comparable talent with the Spurs, and with the fucking Warriors. And on top of that, you fuck up that Dallas Mavericks series in 2011. Like, nah, I'm sorry, you're not in the top 4. You're not. You're right there with Larry Bird. And my personal view, you're also right there with Wilt Chamberlain. And I would also put Tim Duncan up there. Tim Duncan, in my view, is the most underrated top 10 player of all time. In my view, he's right there with LeBron. I would debate that you could possibly put Tim Duncan over LeBron. A lot of people would hate me for that. Tim Duncan never missed the playoffs. That's first of all. He beat LeBron in the finals 2 out of 3 times. Really should have beat him all 3 fucking times. Has 3 finals MVPs. LeBron has 4. Overall, LeBron has 4 championships. Tim Duncan has 5. And also was the best player of the 2000s. and was defensively consistent. Didn't have like a 10-year fucking stretch where he just didn't play shit on defense like LeBron James. But anyways, so yeah, Tim Duncan, first of all, one of my favorite players. Secondly, one of the more overrated players. Marciano was ass. Tiffany, I'm noticing a pattern here. Like I said, with the Jokic's, with the Marcianos, with all that other stuff. Like they did Piccoli, comparing him to Foreman. Well, that's also the thing. Like, I heard so many comparisons with Piccoli to Foreman, and I don't hear any of these like LDBC and new media channels getting pissed off of that. Like, how come they don't say anything about that? You know what I mean? So it is what it is. But anyways, let's see. So let's see. Also Piccoli, this is so interesting because Dante, once again, the reason why I bring up Dante is just because he just brings up so many bullshit points. Like, he's a part of the reason why I have to review some of these narratives, because he's such a fucking swindler. But the point overall is that, or he tries to be. But the point overall is that he'll be like, well, Piccoli knocked out Usyk, and Usyk didn't respond. He knocked him out twice. But he never mentions that one of the opponents that Usyk actually defeated, a Michael Hunter, which is one of the undefeated guys at cruiserweight, knocked out Martin Piccoli. He was the first one to beat Piccoli. No one ever mentions that, but that's what happened. I don't think Piccoli was at his absolute peak, but I do think he was still at a great form, and Michael Hunter beat him. Although I think, to be fair, Piccoli did suffer a shoulder injury in that fight a little bit later on, but Hunter would still beat him in the first part of the fight. So, I mean, anyway, let's continue. Tiffany Cook won all the big fights against all the time greats. Not an easy feat. Yeah, I mean, Rocky Marciano, I'm not going to claim that it was the greatest heavyweights I've ever seen, but he still beat the greats of his time, so I'll give him that. Is Usyk the best European boxer of all time? I don't think it's really debatable. It depends on what you count as European. Caucasian or like Caucasoid or like white, whatever the fuck you want to count him as. I think he definitely would have to be the greatest there. Is he the greatest European guy? Probably. If you're also counting guys like Lennox Lewis and Joe Calzaghe, then maybe it becomes a little bit of a debate. But I would say him and Lennox Lewis are right there. But like in terms of European, in terms of like the European step, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I don't think it's a debate. The Rocky hate is crazy these days. Well, I think Rocky is a little bit underrated these days, to be quite honest with you. I don't think a lot of people really realize what he had to fucking get through. I'd like to see Rocky versus Holyfield at cruiserweight. I think Holyfield, to be honest with you, is a little bit too big for Rocky. Rocky, once again, would really be probably more of a super fucking middleweight today. He rehydrates the same weight as what Canelo did at super middleweight, and what some fucking super middleweights did. So I don't think a lot of people understand, like, Rocky's not fucking big, man. Like, there are some, like, David Benavidez is bigger than fucking Rocky Marciano. Like, he's decently bigger than Rocky Marciano. I don't think a lot of people understand that. That's actually kind of who David Benavidez is, to be honest with you. He's really kind of like a, more technical version of Rocky these days. That's kind of who he's like. Doesn't really run out of stamina, at least when he's at his best. Not as powerful as Rocky. Doesn't also have the stamina of Rocky, but, a bit more technical. Like, that's kind of who he is. That's kind of who David Benavidez I would compare him to. Ali was also a big Elvis fan. I think I heard about that. That's kind of cool. That's interesting. I think Rocky started boxing in 25 too, dude, was my age and became an all-time great. That's what I'm saying. To be fair, though, I think back in that era, it was more common to start around there than what it would be today. But the fact that I think I read up it was 26. But yeah, I mentioned that earlier. It's anyway. John Boxing says, "You poor child." Jesus, man, you guys. Time to watch some Rocky Marciano. Listen, man, Rocky was a phenomenal watch, because the man just never fucking gave up. He would have his nose split open, and let me tell you what, he was not flawless. He got knocked down in fights, and all the, especially a lot of the black fighters, they thought they were going to beat him because they look at him and they said, this guy can't punch, he can't throw a punch, he can't do this. And on the surface, it looked right. But let me tell you what, he fucking got in there and he knocked all of them out. He knocked all of them out. He beat Ezra Charles. He beat Jersey Joe Walcott. Jersey Joe Walcott fight was really amazing. So was the Archie Moore fight, because I think Archie knocked him down in either the first round or it sounded like that. But yeah, anyway, yeah. So someone got the hint. Overall, David Justice. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, my first name is not David. It's actually his last name. So that overall is what I'll tell you right there. My first name actually is his last name. My parents thought that David was too similar. So yeah, that's what David Justice, I think, was like I think he was like a 3-time All-Star. He didn't make the Hall of Fame though. Good player though. Kenny loved it. My parents were very big on the Cleveland Indians. back then. So that's why I was they were thinking about naming me a whole bunch of fucking shit. Kenny Lofton. Kenny Lofton, by the way, that motherfucker was a beast. For those of you that didn't see that team was loaded. Albert Bell, the crazy motherfucker. For any of you guys that watched MLB baseball back then, Kenny Lofton was a fast motherfucker though. I remember him. It just dawned on me on that. Yeah. A minute 52 behind. Yeah, man. Sorry, man. It's gonna be like that sometimes. I'm sorry. John uses the competition over hardware quote to hate in a way, but Shields is the goal and Bud is pound for pound king after Ndango. Agreed. I have to agree with that. Tiffany Cook, Tyson, and Marciano was both 5'11", and Jersey Joe was never even 200 pounds in his career. I don't think that's correct. I think Jersey Joe actually was pretty fucking heavy at one point in time. Let me see if I can look that up on my phone really quick. Let me see. Hopefully y'all. Alrighty. Sorry about that, yo. Alrighty. Anyways, let's see here. Hopefully the audio is still good. I backed out and it's fucking yeah, it's weird. Anyway. But let's see here. The second fight against Walcott was fixed. To be honest, brother, I've never seen it, so I can't tell you. Let's see. Oh shit, I got a lot of fucking things to learn. Let's see. Tyson and Marciano was both 5 foot. Well, yeah, they were, but Marciano was a lot lighter, though. I mean, that's like kind of comparing Caleb Plant weight to Tyson weight. So I mean, they are different. Willie Mays is the GOAT. Yeah, obviously talking about baseball there. Yeah, I mean, obviously he could be, for sure. And I've noticed you say a lot of black athletes be overrated. I've noticed, so don't be hypocritical. Well, yeah, for sure. But you've also heard me state like, Oscar De La Hoya. You've also heard me state, Babe Ruth as well. You've also heard me state Max Holloway, as well, as Aaron Rodgers. So I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I think there's a lot more mixture, in mine than what there might be in yours. But I understand. But it seems like I'm like, no offense, Tiffany, but it does seem like all years tend to be like Caucasian. But anyway, let's see. Willie Mays, I heard, is an amazing player though. Also, Hank Aaron and other guys like that though. Let's see. Like I've been saying, Andrew Reese is still the most dangerous heavyweight and slaps around all the top heavies. He's dangerous, but to be honest with you, I've not been super impressed with his most recent performances. I just have not been. He looks fine, I think. I don't even remember who the fuck he last fought, to be honest with you. He's still good. The problem with him is just motivation. To be honest with you, I think his best years are kind of more behind him, but he's still good. Tim Duncan, Bird, and Magic are my favorites. My favorite basketball players, to be honest with you, would my top 10 probably be Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Julius Erving, who's Dr. J, for those of you that don't know, Philadelphia 76ers, Tim Duncan, Irvin Johnson, or wait, is it Irvin Johnson? Or no, Irvin Johnson is Julius Erving is fucking Dr. J. Irvin Johnson is Magic Johnson. Let's just say Magic Johnson, man. That shit's fucking confusing. So yeah, Magic Johnson, Dr. J, Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, Tim Duncan. That's 6. Steph Curry would have to be up there 7. Who the fuck else? I do like me some Jokic. I'll have to put Jokic up there, so that'd be 8. After that, fuck, he gets a little bit tougher, dude. I don't really have any favorite players from the 60s, probably, nor the 70s. So after that, trying to fucking think, to be honest with you. I do like Giannis, honestly. Giannis is probably up there. I was always rooting for him. And then I'll go Hakeem Olajuwon. Why not? Hakeem is always a great watch. Anyway, since USA is no longer the boxing country and Britain was steamrolled by Usyk, what is your opinion will happen to boxing in terms of popularity? I think boxing popularity has kind of gone down really for a while. I think that ever since the 2000s, to be quite honest with you, has kind of gone down a little bit. I think that I think that football and basketball have gained more popularity, but I'll also state this: I don't fucking think, I don't think that, I don't think that that's as much of an excuse because to be quite honest with you, in some of these other sports, you still see kind of the same mixture. I mean, in football, I think it's debatable because you see more black quarterbacks, for example, today, but you still see a lot of Caucasian tight ends, still a lot of Caucasian quarterbacks, and more Caucasian running backs and other things like that today than what you usually would. And to be honest with you, in basketball, there's more European talent today or fucking foreign talent today than what there ever was. And there definitely is in baseball. So I know that people are kind of saying that, well, there's not as much black talent because they're all in this sport and that sport, but it's like, are they really? Because, and it's like, don't get it twisted, there's a lot there, but when people are just trying to make this excuse that, well, there's black talent, the only reason why they're not there is because they're going to other sports, it's like, well, maybe, but to be honest with you, basketball, there's a lot more fucking European talent today, probably than what there ever has been, to be quite honest with you. So I mean, and don't get it twisted. Some of those European players are like black, like Giannis Antetokounmpo and Victor Wembanyama, or however you pronounce his name. But I mean, the point overall is that America, as a total, is kind of starting to drop off a little bit. They're not the set in tone. And it's not even just in sports; it's just in everything. Hatman Strikes Back, which is a great boxing channel, he brought up a great point that a lot of the Americans, because they've been the setting tone for so many things with Hollywood, with sports, and with all this. No matter what demographic you're talking about, whether it's, Hollywood, which is more ruled by like, the Jews and, the Caucasian, community a little bit more, or, song, community, whatever, or, the musical artist industry, or the sports industry, they don't really rule kind of as much as what they used to. And I think both Britain and the USA have kind of fell off a little bit more. And I think that some people are kind of still living in the, like, it's almost kind of like, a dude that peaked in high school or a boxer that used to be great, but he hasn't noticed that like people have like not looked at him the same. Or like the best way I can compare it is like an actor that used to be a great actor and still thinks that they're playing in like these fucking A-grade list movies. And he doesn't realize that like he's had a few bombs and people don't look at him the same anymore or her the same. Like, you know what I mean? So then they start to get a little bit like bitter about it. But I think that's just how it is. I think a lot of the countries have kind of caught up to America and Britain in a lot of areas. And I just think that's a part of life. I think everyone has their time, just like ancient Rome had their time, just like Kemet had their time, or just like Egypt had their time, just like Persia had their time, or ancient Greece had their time. The rest of the world eventually catches up, and and eventually sometimes it does lead to their fall. But sometimes it just catches up, and that doesn't mean that, of course, that America or Britain is still not going to have their talents, no matter what demographic they be. But the world has caught up a little bit in other areas, I think, for sure. But in terms of its popularity, I think boxing is at a very weird stage. I don't think that it's ever going to be as popular as what it was during the 70s, because boxing was probably one of the top 3 sports in America during that time. It was baseball, I think, at that time, boxing, and football, probably. I don't think it's ever going to be as popular as what it was, especially with the integration of MMA. I think that did hurt boxing popularity a little bit. And I don't think that it's a complete coincidence that around the beginning of the 2000s, which is when the UFC started to get a bit more popular, that it hurt the UFC a bit more. A part of the reason why is because Caucasians are a bit more dominant in MMA, actually a lot more dominant in MMA usually. But when I say that, I just mean that there's a greater, majority of Caucasian fighters that also are dominant there comparative to boxing. But also bigger fights happen in MMA. And on top of that, I think a lot of people kind of got sick and tired of certain big fights not happening. I also think that less American champions did cause a less popular intrigue with that. And also, I think that, overall, that other sports started to take over a little bit, and just that it became more global. I think all sports kind of became a bit more global. Baseball is not the same as what it was. The NFL is not the same as what it was. NBA basketball is not really the same as what it was. And I think that we see that with social media and just the worldwide scale. I think it's just different. So, anyway, but let's see. But in terms of popularity, I think it's still always going to remain popular. And in terms of money, I think it's always going to do great money wise. But do I think it's ever going to be on the same level as what it was like many years ago? Probably not. But anyway, Andy Ruiz still whoops all these so-called top heavier. They are actually ducking him, to be honest. Well, I would have to know who you think he's going to beat. I don't think I would favor him over Ajit Caballel or Sanchez or some of those guys. That's for sure. But I mean, maybe he might be able to defeat some of them. Walcott said he would retire and take his legacy away if he could beat Rocky. LOL. That's true. That's actually true. A lot of people. Walcott said that if I lose to this bum, then strip my name from the all-time great books. I think he said something like that. That's true. Kind of like similar to what Tyson Fury would say today. The second fight against Walcott was fixed. A fight that actually was fixed was Jersey Joe Walcott versus fucking Joe Louis. If that's the one you're talking about. But I assume that you're talking about Rocky. Anyway. But let's see. Kenny Lofton, great ass Wildcat, basketball and baseball. I didn't know he played basketball. That's crazy. One of the players that I knew actually played. I mean, this isn't basketball, baseball, but I knew a few. I know of a few players that did baseball and what is it? Basketball, football, and basketball. Julius Peppers, who played for my Carolina Panthers for a while, and also Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson, excuse me, never mind. He played baseball and what is it? Football. Anyway. Rocky barely beat past prime Charles in the first fight. Well, I wouldn't say he was past his prime. I would just say he was a bit older in the first fight and he should have lost, but nobody talks about that. Well, I thought the first fight he knocked him out. I was pretty sure he knocked him out with the Suzy Q punch. So I'm not sure how that makes sense. Maybe that's the wrong fight I'm thinking of. Anyway, he hit people on the back of the head. I mean, maybe, to be fair, I'd have to watch more fights. To be fair, it was a little bit of a different era. There was a lot of fucking hit behind the head back then, but yeah, I know what you mean. Benavidez is basic and efficient, but I want to say technical. I mean, well, listen, Benavidez is not the most technical fighter that you ever see, but he's a little bit rough around the edges, but he's a little bit more technical than what you may see. So I give Benavidez a lot of credit. At Tiffany, second listed fight was fixed, and Ali barely beat Cooper. That is true. Actually, I believe that Cooper hurt him so bad that Ali's trainer actually had to cut his gloves open, which is kind of cheating, but a lot of people don't mention that. I mean, and obviously Ali was better than Cooper, but still. And Ali barely beat Cooper. Angelo admitted to opening the hole in the glove, and they gave Ali smelling salts. Exactly. Wayne, he's still better than Marciano. Well, he's probably better than Marciano, but I mean, it's a little bit hard to compare because Ali's like, what, 230, 6'3", 78 inches of reach. I mean, the sizes aren't comparable. So anyways, Ali held a lot of opponents behind the head. He even put Ernie Tyrell in a headlock and thumped him in the eye. I believe it. There's a lot of fighters that did that, probably, to be fair. Still no comparison. Okay. Custiamano checked Ali about Joe Louis. LOL. Yeah, I think there was a video on that. I think he said that. I remember he said Rocky Marciano. I think he said that he thinks Rocky Marciano would beat him. There was a cool video on that, actually. Custiamano was a genius level boxing trainer where Ali said, "What would you do if I threw a jab?" And Custiamano threw a duck jab to his body, and Ali was like, "Oh, you ain't as dumb as you look." I remember that video. That was a classic video. Anyway, when y'all love your superhero, well, Marciano was a great what is it? Marciano was a great fighter. I think we gotta give him credit, but I understand. A man of history, Noise. Thank you, sir. Ali is my hero, LMAO, and he got me into boxing as a boy. So is Joe Louis. The man who got me into boxing was Mike Tyson. I was on Mike Tyson's jockstrap when I was a fucking teenager, man. I fucking love Mike Tyson, but I think after a while, you just got to accept that, he wasn't as great as what many people said. Ali still did way more than Marciano, so hey, say what you will, but it's worth this arguing comparing the two. Well, I mean, I think Ali probably would be greater than Marciano, but I do think that Marciano deserves his credit. Marciano would be a great heavyweight in my view. He'd be one of the greater ones. He would be a top 30 fighter of all time in my view. I'm not even disagreeing with you. I just don't agree with what Ali said. All right, anyway. Okay. Giannis' parents are Nigerian immigrants. Yeah, for sure, but he does come from Europe. But even if he does come from Nigeria, still, he's not from the USA. Most, if not all, cheat. Well, some do. Let's see. Who is the most likable boxer in terms of personality? Holyfield was bad about thumbs. And okay, so let's actually have a different conversation here. You know what, guys? I need to get some fucking Funyuns, man. I need to stuff my face because I've not ate much today. And when I get fucking motivated to talk, man, I need to eat. All right, I need to fucking eat. So let's see. I need to get me some Funyuns, man. I'm getting me a coffee cake. And I'm getting me some fucking Funyuns here. Who's the most likable boxer? Let's answer that first, and then we'll go to who's the most dirty motherfuckers. Let me put my phone down real quick. Yeah, man. Let's see. You know what? Fuck it. I'm grabbing the rest of the bag. All right, let's see. All right. Fucking, you ever just see a bag of chips and it's like, ah, fuck it, half the bag ain't that much. All right, anyway. Oh my God. I don't know who doesn't like Funyuns, but you're crazy if you don't like Funyuns. That's all I'm saying. All right, let's see. So the most likable boxer, I mean, Ali's pretty fucking likable. It depends on your personality that you like. A lot of people like humble guys, people who are quiet. I mean, Usyk in my view is pretty likable. He's just very odd. He's a very odd customer, so he's pretty likable. I think that Crawford is pretty likable. I think sometimes he did a bit too much talking for me when he would not cross the other side of the street. But he's pretty likable. I like him. He seems like a chill dude. And people who know me know I'm from Omaha, Nebraska. So I actually had a couple friends. I've had multiple friends actually that have met him, and they said that he was really fucking chill. So yeah. Sean Porter's pretty likable. I like him. Keith Thurman, Tyson Fury to a degree, but I can understand why people get annoyed with him. Canelo to a degree. I don't think Floyd is probably not particularly likable, but he's a great boxer. I like him as a boxer, so probably not personality wise. I like Sugar Ray Leonard, to be honest. Although, to be fair, I was not really around during his prime. It would have been way before my prime. It all depends on your personality. See, my thing is like I like the witty fucking talk shit guys, but guys who don't go too far. So like, but you especially see those guys in UFC, the ones that like go really fucking far. So like guys like Colby Covington, in my view, they just do too much. First of all, like you're playing a fucking character that ain't even you. And then on top of that, like you're clearly riding on like the conservative fucking shit. And like, I'm not into politics. I'm not into the liberal or conservative shit, but it's like you're playing a character and it was fine at first, but then he goes too far. Like I remember when he was with Leon Edwards, who was a black British fighter, by the way, and he was talking about, I'll bring you to hell like your father. And the reason why I said that was because his father recently died, which I thought was a really fucking low blow. Like that's something that's really shitty. And Colby's really fucking unlikable. Like I do not like him. And he's someone that I think is a great fighter. But then to talk all that shit and then go in there and fight like the pussy that you did in that fight against Leon Edwards. If I talk that much shit, I at least would like try to fight my ass off. He threw fucking nothing that whole entire fight. So I know we're talking about boxing, but I also got to talk about MMA too. Max Holloway is also a very likable guy. I just think he's super overrated. The guy, to be honest though, my type of personalities that I fucking love are guys like Ilya Topuria. Because if I'm like playing video games with my friends and shit, and like those are the fucking personalities that I love. They're like very calm and respectful, but they like got a killer energy about them, like an assassin personality. Like Ilya is so fucking confident. Like he'll talk to you and he has respect for you. He's like, my friend, like, I have a lot of respect for you and I'll make sure that your death is quick. That's the type of shit talk that I like. Like, that's so fucking hilarious to me. I love that shit. Conor McGregor was likable to me before he started going fucking haywire. Then he kind of turned out to be a piece of shit. Dominic Cruz was another witty trash talker that I really liked. He's fucking hilarious. Has anyone else seen that fucking video with him and Cody Garbrandt where Dominic Cruz was like talking shit and Cody Garbrandt, like his response was like, Dominic Cruz is like, what you gonna do to beat me? Dude, like I did this. And Cody Garbrandt was like, yo, I ain't never have to chase pussy in my life and I ain't gonna do it again. I don't have to. And Dominic Cruz is like, what are you talking about? And Cody immediately was like, what are you talking about? That was so fucking funny. Cody is bless his heart, man. But that dude has very little brain cells even before his ass whoopings to TJ. Whew. I tell you what, he picked the right career because he didn't have much up there in the first place. Anyways, most likable guys for UFC, Max Holloway. For me, Dominic Cruz, Ilya Topuria. I think Alex Pereira also is very likable. I also like Stipe. How can you not like Stipe? Daniel Cormier also to me is very likable. Daniel Cormier, a lot of people I think kind of hated on him because he wasn't on the level of John Jones, but he's probably one of the more underrated guys. He's a debatable top 10 MMA fighter of all time. The wrestling and the striking is amazing. And besides Stipe and John Jones, who's been caught on steroids like 15 fucking times and also had a clear size advantage at light heavyweight, I think DC is likable. John Jones was kind of likable first, and he turned out to be a pretty big piece of shit too. Let's also talk about guys that are found to be likable and then are really not fucking likable in my view. Both boxing and MMA. Now, to answer your question, likable for boxing, I think Ali was likable for me. George Foreman, after a while, George Foreman was interesting because he kind of changed his personality. I like Joe Calzaghe's personality. I like who else's personality? Manny, like, I mean, he has a nice personality, but to be quite honest with you, Manny has a little bit of a that's for like politics and show, to be honest. I think he kind of shows more of his true colors in interviews. I don't think he's a bad person, but you get to see he's a little bit more like not quite as humble as what he claims to be in interviews. Just my view of it. Marquez, I like his personality. Who's another one? I think there was one that I was thinking of that I'm like missing. I like Inoue's personality. To be fair, the man don't fucking speak English, but if the translations are anything to go by, I mean, hey, I like him. Who the fuck else is really likable? I actually like Devin Haney. I actually do. I know a lot of people don't like Devin Haney, but I like Devin Haney. He's willing to take on a fight. He seems very respectful, very logical. I like Devin Haney. I like Devin Haney quite a lot. I think I could have a beer or two with Devin Haney. I'm trying to think who else. Yeah. Now, in terms of personalities that are not likable in my fucking view, or personalities that they say are likable, I wasn't ever a huge fan of the fucking Diaz brothers, to be honest with you. Because they just always bitch, moan, and complain and make excuses. And people are like, they're such good boxers. They're such this high stamina, and they barely throw throughout the fucking fight. And they just throw these winded, advertised punches. And they're likable to a degree. Don't get it twisted. I don't think they're really bad people, but it just annoys me that they always make fucking excuses. Another person that I could not fucking stand in UFC was Jorge Masvidal. One of the most overrated fighters of all time. Man beat Darren Till, who was never really that great in the fucking first place. He also beat Ben Askren, who was pretty much showed to be a hype job for UFC standards. And he also beat Nate Diaz, who was never really a great 170 pounder to begin with. And then when he fought real fighters like Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington, fights weren't fucking close. And the reason why he didn't want to fight Colby was because there was a personal beef there. And he fucking knew if he lost that fight, which I knew he was gonna, because Masvidal was really like a top 7 contender in disguise as a fucking top 3 contender. He beat 3 of the most fit opponents for him and was a star after that. Jorge Masvidal was such a bitch that after that fight, he was concocting all these fucking excuses. And Colby did not say anything in my view fucking bad enough for Jorge to go after him. And then Jorge went after him like the snake that he is, like the street rat that he fucking is, and then tried to break his fucking jaw at a restaurant. And Colby's an asshole. I don't like Colby either. But, you know, Jorge is someone that, in my view, is not likable. Another person that a lot of people look at as likable, I can't fucking stand this guy. This guy comes across as someone who peaked in fucking high school vibes for me, peaked in fucking high school and just bullies everyone around him. Rampage fucking Jackson. I cannot stand that motherfucker. Every time I've seen that guy in an interview, he has funny moments, but he comes across as that guy that it's funny because, like, you know, it's funny at times, but he just does too much. Like, I remember he was on The Ultimate Fighter and he was teasing that one kid, like calling him titties. And it's like, dude, okay, whatever. But like the dude's a kid and you know he's not going to fight back against you. Like, that's so fucking pussy in my view. Like, I don't respect a person like that. I was very happy when Rashad Evans, who's also, by the way, one of my favorite MMA fighters of all time. Rashad Evans is a smooth fucking MMA fighter back then. A great fighter. I was so happy that Rashad Evans whooped that man's ass or beat him. I could not fucking stand Rampage. I still don't like him. Anyway, but that being said, he was a great fighter, though. Don't get it twisted. I don't let my emotions get in the mix of it. He is an amazing guy, but he's a fucking asshole. I don't like Rampage. Now, in terms of talking about this, Holyfield was bad about thumbs and headbutts. I don't know much about thumbs. Headbutts, he definitely was. Both Tyson and Lewis said that. So now, is that the main reason why I think Tyson lost? No, but I mean, it definitely was probably a little bit of a factor. Let me get my Funyuns here. Okay. Anywho, oh my god, those are so good. Hold on. So guys who are the dirtiest boxers. Bernard Hopkins is probably the most dirty boxer that I've ever seen. I've never seen a boxer headbutt. Oh man, someone is here to grab some of my Funyuns. Anyways, but Bernard Hopkins was probably the most dirty bastard I've ever seen. Andre Ward also is a little bit of a dirty bastard as well. And he said one of his idols was Bernard Hopkins, and I'm not fucking surprised. Both of those guys would headbutt. They would lead with their heads. They would both low blow. They would both elbow. And Andre Ward, in my view, was a great boxer. They were both dirty bastards. Bernard was such a, and I mean with all due respect, he was an all-time great level boxer. He was such a bitch sometimes in the ring. He would always try to leak the referee for points like being deducted and for potential low blows or other shit. And he was the dirtiest bastard in there. He would fucking elbow people. He would headbutt people. He would low blow people. And then he would be the first to bitch, moan, and complain. Overall, he would be the whiniest bitch in the fight and after the fight, overall. And he would be the one that's trying to do the most dirty shit, which doesn't surprise me if you take a look at his background. The dude grew up in prison. A lot of those fucking guys were like that. He was a great fighter, but overrated and also a fucking dirty bastard, to be sure. Guys who are unlikable as boxers, Broner, he just too much, especially for his actual talent level. I think that Maidana ass kicking was probably one of the fucking most satisfying ones. And I think, to be fair, though, I kind of just started getting into recent boxing when I watched it. I was like 13, 14 at the time when that happened. So, I mean, I didn't even see that one. And then I saw it afterwards. Yeah, so that happened. But, yeah, Broner definitely can be quite unlikable. Other boxers who are quite fucking unlikable, I'm trying to think of who else. Teofimo Lopez can be quite unlikable at times. Oscar De La Hoya, to be quite honest with you, at least now, I can't fucking, he annoys the shit out of me. Like, Oscar De La Hoya, you can tell, is so fucking, like, he wishes he could go back 30 years and be back in his prime. Like, he's so fucking miserable in retirement. He has, like, you can tell that is a man that feels he has nothing. like he fucking, every time I see his clapback Thursdays, whatever the fuck it is, it's like, dude, please, like, just fucking go, dude. I'm trying to think who else is unlikable. I can't really fucking think of a lot of people right now. Who the fuck else was unlikable? I mean, I'm sure there's other people that Carl Frost, man. I mean, I can't even say Carl Frost. Carl Frost kind of can be a prick sometimes, but he's a little bit funny. He's like the Paul Pierce of boxing. Paul Pierce, like, whenever another basketball player gets like mentioned, he's just like, Paul Pierce, who do you think is great between LeBron and Larry Bird? He's just like, it's me. I'm the greatest of all time. And they're like, that's fucking Carl Frost. Whenever British fighters get brought up, especially, he's just like, well, they're great, but will they beat me in my prime? Probably not. And it's like, okay, thank you, Carl. Thank you. Wasn't the question, but anyway. Oh, man. Mentioning Carl Frost, by the way, he was slightly underrated in my view, by the way. But we'll talk about that. Anyway, Broner. Thurman seems cool. I agree. AJ seems fine. I think I would get along with AJ. Wilder, to be honest with you, I don't mind Wilder. I don't think anyone mentioned him, but I'm just going to mention him. He was a bit unlikable just because of the excuses that he makes, but it's just unfortunate because he let that stupid-ass fucking crowd around him. But it doesn't surprise me because that's kind of a reflection of him, the super racialized guys that make excuses for a lot of stuff. But I think Wilder, to be honest with you, Wilder gets a lot of flack, and I've given him a lot of flack too. But I'll give Wilder this. He seems like a pure, like, well-intentioned guy. Like, he does seem like a good guy. I don't agree with a lot of the shit that he says and the excuses he makes, but you got to really appreciate someone that did all that shit for their daughter and, other kids and all that other shit. He seems like a nice guy, Anyway, Holyfield was very likable. Yeah, I don't know him enough to be honest with you, but I've heard that. Bo was likable, even though he had a bit of an attitude. Bo, I've heard some shit about Bo. Like, I think really, didn't he get arrested for like kidnapping his wife or something, and his kid or something, or was that someone else? I don't remember. Cody is a disgrace. Oh man. I didn't know how funny Canelo was until he learned English. Yeah, Canelo can be funny. He's funny as fuck. A bit of a diva though. Well, I mean, listen, when you're on that fucking level, that comes with the territory. Just to let you know, I'm not racist, so don't get the wrong idea of me. I wouldn't be watching your channel if I was. I don't think you're racist, my man. I think you probably have a little bit of racial motivations at times, but I mean, it is what it is. Everyone has them to a degree. It's all good. It's all good, brother. Daniel Cormier seems like a wonderful person, but his commentary is unbearable. I got to be honest, man. I don't think that DC's commentary is fucking bad. You know whose commentary is really fucking terrible is Dominic Cruz. You ever see that Dustin Poirier versus Justin Gaethje first fight? Dustin Poirier was literally beating the fucking shit out of this man with like several punch combinations. And literally the whole fucking time while they were talking about, like, Justin Gaethje's leg kicks are really getting to him, Joe. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, it's just crazy. Like, like both their comments, I've never really seen a UFC commentator, to be quite honest with you, that I've just absolutely loved. I don't really know who would be a good commentator, to be honest with you. I've never seen one that I've just loved. I thought all of them were, I'm not going to say all of them were terrible, but I've never seen one that's just been fucking amazing. I think Dustin Poirier, to be quite honest with you, he has a lot of potential. He's a very smart dude, at least in terms of breaking down fights. I think I would love to see him as a commentator. I would love to see him. Who is your UFC GOAT? Okay, well, this is shit. This is one of the questions, right? This is one of the fucking questions. We're not gonna get to all the questions, by the way, today, guys. I don't think. Okay, never mind. My computer actually turned on. Okay, so maybe we will. Yeah, same thing here. Boxing Expert says, yo, Realist, who you consider the greatest UFC fighter of all time? I think it's Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson, to be honest. Here's my thing about Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson. He is an all-time great level fighter. The problem is with him is that he's kind of it's almost kind of like the similar problem with Inoue at first in his career, because you're part of the lower weight classes, and I just don't know like how much is there, and a lot of people don't know how much competition is really there. But the question is, was there really not a lot of competition there, or was it just because people didn't pay attention to it? Because after Johnson left, a lot of people started paying attention to it. I think people kind of started getting a little bit of fatigue from him because he was so dominant there for years. I'm not going to claim he's the GOAT, but if you were to claim like top 10, even GOAT, I mean, I'm not going to say you're wrong. I think that my UFC GOATs probably would be between George St. Pierre and Anderson Silva, just because at times they fought guys that were a little bit bigger or similar in size. And Anderson Silva was caught on steroids, but a little bit later on. And he also beat so many guys. Chael Sonnen, although Chael Sonnen, to be fair, was not a tremendously great fighter, but Chael Sonnen did give him a very tough fight and also defeated Michael Bisping, to be fair, future UFC champ. Although, to be fair, Michael Bisping was not quite at his peak then. And that's also another thing. Fighters can reach their peak at different ages. Like Bisping did not reach his peak until like his late 30s. So that also is something that, has to be mentioned as well. And Daniel Cormier was still at a relative peak in his late 30s and early 40s. That also has to be mentioned as well. But when you also talk about GOATs, George St. Pierre and Anderson Silva for me. John Jones, definitely up there, but to me, the size issue is kind of apparent. And I know that a lot of people would disagree, but it's like when you're facing guys like Rampage Jackson and Rashad Evans, and you have like a fucking 12-inch reach advantage over some of those guys. I'm not bullshitting you, by the way. Some of the fighters that he did fight, he had like literally a fucking 11-inch reach advantage over, or a 12-inch reach advantage over. He has an 85-inch arm reach, and he's 6'4". Like he was not around during the time of the light heavyweights today, where you actually have guys like Giri Prohaska and Alex Pereira, guys who are like legitimate fucking light heavyweights. He wasn't around during that era. He was around during the guys that probably would have been, more middleweights today, like Rampage Jackson or Rashad Evans, and overall, what the fuck is his name? Shogun Hua. That was a great era, by the way, of light heavyweights. During that, kind of the Chukwuda era, right after, kind of the beginning of the Chukwuda era with Tito Ortiz, Vitor Belfort, Chuck Liddell, Sebastian, whatever the fuck his name was, that one Brazilian champion, who lost to Chuck Liddell, Kevin Randleman, who was a heavyweight and a light heavyweight as well. Chuck Liddell's top 10 for me too, but he wouldn't be the GOAT. John Jones is a great fighter, also a two-weight division champion. But to me, I think if John would have officially defeated Tom Aspinall and Francis Ngannou, I think he probably would have been the official one for me. The problem is with him, and I don't usually count steroids against fighters, because it's like, okay, maybe you could have been off him later, or a lot of fighters are on steroids. But with John Jones, it's like, you just know for sure that he is, because it's like you've been caught like 3 to 4 fucking times. And then on top of that, you have such a size advantage over most of your opponents. It's like, and then when he does fight guys that are really his own same size, like Dominic Reyes or Alexander Gustafsson, he has a lot more problems. So I think that it is, apparent there. That's just my view of it. I know a lot of people would disagree. If you were to put John Jones in the GOAT conversation, though, I don't have a problem with that. It's just, to me, I would prefer Silva and George St. Pierre, just because they fought guys more similar in size. Just my view of it. Let's see. I don't like Tyson Fury. He trash talks way too much, constantly talks to quitting boxing, and his whole no man born of a mother can beat Tyson Fury. It's just stupid. I like Tyson, a little bit. Fury, I mean, he comes across a little bit like a Macbeth type of personality, like a Shakespearean personality. He's an interesting character, but the problem is with Fury is that his antics just go on a little bit too much. It's like, are you in boxing? Are you out of it? Like, are you doing this? Are you doing that? What the fuck are you doing? I can understand why a lot of his fans like lost respect for him because he just does too much. You know, he just does too much. I get it. Old George is my favorite personality. He's a really cool dude. You know, I forgot he died. I think he did this year or last year, right, man? Unfortunate. No, great, cool, good, cool dude. From what I heard. Schofield, Ryan can be a bit unlikable. Clarissa Shields is definitely unlikable. Tiafimo Senior, yeah, both the fucking Tiafimos are the most likable in they're the most likable in boxing. Clarissa Shields definitely for sure. Jesus, I mean, so humble. I mean, so also hate Antonio Margarito, just an a-hole. Well, yeah. Fucking I think it's fairly obvious that he cheated Miguel Cotto in that first fight. And it's, you know, people always debate me on this, especially a lot of the Mexican fans. They're always like, well, we don't know, you know, if he was cheating that. Well, it's like the point is that I have to assume that you were because the fucking Miguel Cotto rematch did not look the same. And you both were kind of a little bit more damaged at that time. And you know, I always had Mexican fans saying Cotto would have worn out in that second fight. He was close to getting knocked out, just like he would have in the first fight, because he was winning the first fight too. Well, Cotto won the first 6 rounds, from what I remember, but then literally as soon as round 7 hit, it was a different fucking story. Margarito was starting to beat him up, so that's why like it was fucking different. So, you know, no, the first fight was a lot different. Like you could see a lot of the damage on Cotto's face and his stamina just draining. And I do think Cotto also moved around a bit too much in that fight. I think that Margarito cut off the ring a bit better than what Cotto thought. And also, Margarito was just a bit big compared to Cotto. But do I think he cheated in that fight? Yes, personally, I do. And he was a hard fucking puncher even without it. But Margarito was not. Margarito was not someone that, in my view, that was a legit fighter without his fucking hand reps. So, just my view of it. But anyway, I couldn't stand Rampage. Oh, yeah, Rampage was an asshole. Tito Ortiz is also very unlikable. And Fernando Vargas. Fernando could be a little bit unlikable. Ricardo Mayorga a little bit as well. Orlando Salido, cheating asshole, and he's in prison for killing an old man in a DUI. I didn't even fucking know that. That's crazy. Oof. Wow. Bernard jumping out the ring as well. Well, yeah, wasn't that against fucking Joe? What the fuck is it? Joe Smith or something like that? Joe Smith Jr. or something like that. You know, where he fucking maybe he jumped out the ring in another one. It wouldn't fucking surprise me. Bernard, that dude was so full of bad antics. Anyway. But yeah, I remember that. I can't stand how conceited Andre Ward is. I don't listen to him. I actually like Andre. I think he's a very smart man. I think he's a genius in terms of boxing. I think he's an all around, genius in a lot of the stuff that he talks about. But the fucking, thing that I don't like is that he was a fucking dirty bastard. He just was. He would headbutt. He fucking low blowed. He did do a lot of shit. And he was a great fighter. He was an all-time great fighter. But he was a dirty bastard. He was. He took a lot of tricks from Bernard Hopkins. I'm just going to state that much. Anyway. De La Hoya peaked in high school big time. Oh, no fucking question. Well, De La Hoya is a guy that, in my view, fucking like, you can just tell he's not taking retirement well. And a lot of boxers deal with that. They're miserable after it. They don't know what to do. And I think because De La Hoya also lost a lot of the bigger fights in his career, pretty much almost every fucking one of the ones that were actually pound for pound worthy, with guys same size, then that also hit him harder. Because I think when, Manny and Floyd retired, for example, or even Usyk or guys like that, I think they're going to feel that, they left everything out of the tank. So, yeah. Frost is too full of himself at times. He is. He's a little bit fucking funny, though. I ain't going to lie. I mean, don't call me, brother. I'm not a goddamn man either. Okay, man. Oh, you're not a man either? Okay. I can never fucking tell with you. Anyway. Okay, Tiffany, miss. All right, I'll call you that from now on. Anyway. I mean, I was wondering, if you were female, but I couldn't quite sure. Sometimes I get female names in here, believe it or not, and they end up being fucking guys anyway. This is just named after their wife, their daughter, or some fucking name that they like. Anyway, cool. When Wilder first came into boxing and on JRE, he was very likable. I used to be a big fan. Yeah, he gets a bit too much for me, but anyway. Let's see. Wilder should return to that humble father figure mindset like he came into boxing. Well, the thing is that whenever you're on top, you're always going to get a bigger head, and it does kind of reveal some of your true character or what you've grown into. I don't think Wilder was ever that bad. I just think the excuses he made were that fucking terrible. But anyway, we should ask the Haney fans, do they like John Jones? That actually would be a very interesting question. That would be a very interesting question. That would really, be very interesting. I agree with you. Or at least down to his Boxing Nation or something like that. That's a very good point. Ryan Garcia is the most unlikable human being on earth. He acts like a seventh grade boy when his crush is in the classroom. Okay, I do fucking agree because like, and I don't mind Garcia, but like, you know, you can tell that he's working up so much for the fucking camera, which I get to a degree, but like, the energy completely changes when a camera fucking gets in front of him. Then he throws like all these fucking fast combinations. It's like, dude, calm the fuck down. Like you barely accomplished shit in your career. Let's chill. Anyway, fucking Christ. Tiffany Cook, you know, talking about John Jones, but he beat Gustafsson 2 times, and Chuck Liddell got knocked out by Rampage, and Rashad, he lost all his big fights too, but he's in your top 10. Well, Chuck Liddell actually did not lose all his big fights. That's a misconception. Chuck Liddell actually won the majority of his big fights. It's just by the time that he was losing those fights, he was pretty much done. After Rampage knocked him out, he was never the same after that. It's kind of like Israel Adesanya after he got beat by Alex Pereira. He was never the same. So that would like be me saying that Israel Adesanya lost the majority of his big fights, but he didn't. It's just after a certain fight, he was never the same. Now, Rampage was actually at times a more technical striker than Chuck. That's why Chuck lost to him twice, because Rampage could kind of, put the high guard up and then kind of hit afterwards. The problem with Chuck is that he was kind of a pioneer of the sport, but he still was able to last very well because of his level of power and because of his skill. He was a very skilled fighter. He just did not take his training all the way seriously at times. He was very chubby and mushy in the stomach a lot of the times. But he won a lot of big fights. Don't get it twisted, because he beat fighters that were or would be considered greater than Rampage. He did beat Randy Couture twice. Don't get it twisted. He beat great fighters. He beat Randy Couture. He beat Kevin Randleman, who was a former champion. He beat who got robbed against Bas Rutten, by the way, and also beat Fedor Emelianenko, by the way. I'm trying to think who else. He also beat that Brazilian fighter. I forget the fucking name, like Merce Tabalo, whatever the fuck his name was. He was a champion. Beat Vitor Belfort, who's one of the greater fighters of all time. Beat Tito Ortiz. Also beat that of not Jeff Horn. I'm thinking about the fucking boxer. It's some Horn guy, Jeremy Horn. That's what I'm thinking of. He was never a champion, but he was one of the greater contenders of the day. So Chuck Liddell actually won a lot of big fights, especially for how short of a time. But by the time that he got older, and keep in mind that Chuck was actually in his late 30s when he won a lot of these fights, so he was already kind of older heading into it. But by the time Rampage knocked him out, he was done after that. He was never the same. So after that, I think he lost to Shogun Rua. He lost to Rich Franklin, a fight that he was actually winning, by the way. But then Franklin caught him with a punch. He actually broke Rich Franklin's arm. But yeah, he was never quite the same after that. But anyway, but no, that wouldn't be accurate to say that Chuck lost all his big fights. B Wayne, they probably are. B Hop went out the ring twice. Joe Smith and another guy from the 90s. I believe that. B Wayne against Robert Allen. Oh, I believe it. John, that's the guy. Haney should have thrown himself out of the ring against Ryan. Man, I give Haney a lot of respect, though. I've never seen him pull up any of those antics before, though. All right, let's get to some of the comments on my video real quick, because, man, we've been doing this for, 3.5 hours? All right, but it's great to talk to y'all, though. Let's see. But the greatest UFC fighters of all time for me would be George St. Pierre and Anderson Silva. Those would be the two. Usyk is not overrated. He's a great fighter. A bad performance does not erase everything he's done and accomplished in the sport of boxing. Yeah, I get his bad look because this Rico dude was a kickboxer, but I believe he just didn't take him seriously. Agreed. No way anyone can convince me that the Usyk that beat Fury, AJ, and Dubois was the same Usyk that was in the ring with Rico. Agreed with that. No, he just didn't take him serious. And maybe Father Time is catching up as well. I mean, he is going on 40 years old, so he's no spring chicken. I pretty much agree with everything you said. But let's see. No, Usyk not overrated. He's still an all-time great heavyweight. Exposed, not his skills, but 100% Usyk's decisions are exposed. Usyk cherry-picked a kickboxer. Oh, yeah, I remember this comment. Usyk picked to overlook a kickboxer. Usyk picked to come heavy. Usyk got outboxed and struggled against a kickboxer. I honestly think Usyk was winning more rounds, what people say, but I understand. Are we to blame for Usyk's decision? Yes, this fight is going to be negative for his career, or part of his career, because Usyk made it an official match. 100% Usyk needs to drop down on the pound-for-pound ranking for this. Now, that I agree with. This is the worst performance from a pound-for-pound boxer in the last 10 years. Yeah, I would agree with that. I just don't think it affects his legacy that much, or at all, because I just think Usyk has accomplished too much. But anyway, but let's see. No, Usyk is not overrated. Agreed. He was composed and finally caught Rico with the uppercut at the right time. He was getting outboxed the whole fight, but he found a way. That stoppage was still bogus. So yeah, I agree. That stoppage is fucking terrible. Terrible stoppage. All right, but let's see. Let's see. Uh, just goes to show they never liked Usyk. Ironically, to them, Rocky, the Klitschko's Fury, and Usyk are all overrated. Even Loma, agreed. Notice the pattern, agreed. LMAO, where was this outrage about boxing being corrupt when AJ stopped Klitschko, or Wilder being overrated and corruption when they gave Wilder a draw against Fury? Agreed. The Usyk versus AJ fight was stopped at the 8-second mark in the 12th when AJ was getting pounded against the ropes. Yes, agreed. And I think, is there more to that? Let's see. This is by B. Wayne, by the way. The most famous picture of Ali standing over Liston. Most don't bat an eye. I think twice about corruption being overrated. No consistency or standards with boxing fans. Rico spit his mouthpiece out twice, holding, fouling, and clinching the elbows. True. They his corner bought extra time, putting his mouthpiece in. The ref also didn't call time. And no outrage historically. The corruption such system is against Usyk. Seeing how many fighters they have used dirty tactics outright to beat him, including Rico, fighting in their backyard. Boxing fans show time and again how hypocritical they are for these pro Western MMA boxing channels. It's nothing now. Yeah. I'm not going to say the system in this fight was quite against him because I think it would have been a black eye for everyone had Usyk lost this in terms of boxing. But I understand what you're saying. It's interesting because I remember for Tyson Fury, for example, I remember, for example, like they were saying that, well, Fury's using his elbow against Wilder and you can't do that, blah, blah, blah. I never heard anything about this with Bernard Hopkins or Mayweather or, Ward. To me, you can use the elbow as long as it's like not, jamming it in their face or something. Anyway. But let's see. You with this Marciano stuff again, he would not even touch top 30 in my view. He would for me. Anyway, your old pal fight film is back. I might have to review because that dude definitely has some racial motivations as well. Let's see what Baron Ebola has to say, and then we might be fucking done with this unless anyone else has any more questions. Let's see here. He's not overrated. Ken Norton fought Ali 3 times. The only fight Norton won was the first non-title 10-rounder. I thought it was a 12, but I'm not sure. The other 2 were for higher stakes, 15 rounds. Titles, it's been 50 years. All kept it close enough to where he got the nod, but many felt not enough to get the win. Agreed. Think GGG/Canelo 2 for a comparison. That was a prime Ali at 31 years old. Or at least, closer to the prime that he could be. Yeah, prime, maybe not peak, but yeah. The third Yankee Stadium, Norton won, but they gave to Ali. Ali did not have a miraculous finish. He was already showing signs of not being the same. He was still prime at 34. Nobody called Ali overrated. The entire media establishment tripled down on the greatest routine and do so to this minute, but there was some criticism. Well, I think that there probably was criticism back then, just not today. I think that it's looked at a lot different when it's years later. That being stated, I do have to agree. Usyk didn't have any fights like that, like against Ken Norton, where he probably should have lost some, overall, or against Leon Spinks or something like that. So I agree. That's why I can't go too much for his, what is it? I can't go too much against him for the Rico fight, even though it was a kickbox, because it's literally his only embarrassing performance. Usyk is 39, 5 years older than Ali. When he fought Norton, 3 and 8 years older than when he fought Norton 1. He probably is at a better point and had less wear and tear, but I get it. The reason I mentioned the age is not to say, well, he's old and so they gave it to him, but to show that in 1973, after Norton fight, had Ali not gotten in the nod at the second fight at 31, his career would have faltered. The mythos would have been shattered. To a degree, it definitely would have been. Had Ali, who admitted himself Norton won the third, not gotten a nod in the third fight. That's true. Ali did admit that. Let's see. Tabel is coming up. Everyone knows it. Norton could always say, I beat the greatest 2 times in his prime. Tabel is coming up. Everyone knows it. They want a Muslim to beat Usyk. Now, this was the part I must admit I did not understand. They want a Muslim to beat Usyk. They don't care who it is. They tried with AJ twice. I don't know which Muslim you're talking about for AJ, to be honest with you. They need that narrative, whether it's in MMA or boxing, to continue. They don't care if they lose $10 billion to get total market capture of the fight game, to get total market capture forever going forward in all the markets. I mean, well, if we're talking about Kabayel, I mean, I don't think he's Muslim, is he? Maybe he is. I mean, I know he has like, Kurdish or like Middle Eastern background, but that doesn't always mean they're Muslim. I understand what you're saying though. But yeah, I don't know. But yeah, Usyk, in my view, like I said, every heavyweight has their embarrassing moments. Lennox Lewis had his two very embarrassing moments against Oliver McCall and Hassan Rahman. Ali had his embarrassing moments against Leon Spinks, Henry Cooper, and also Ken Norton, and even a couple of other ones probably. Mike Tyson had his obviously against Buster Douglas, and probably even Evander Holyfield, to be quite honest with you. And I'm trying to think who else. Joe Louis had a few of his, and George Foreman had a couple of his. So, I mean, the point is that all those guys have had embarrassing moments. This really was just the only one that, was the embarrassing moment of Usyk. So that's why, to me, doesn't affect him that much. Unfortunately, I think so. Even if it's in the man, I can't read this comment, overall to a full degree because that's this fucking money sign right in front of your comment. What's up, Fight Sports Talk? Nice to see you, bro. This should have never happened. I mean, I think that's I don't think it does much for me. I understand your point, but the fact that he dominated Fury and AJ so well, to me, it just it doesn't affect it that much. I think it'd be different if he would have lost one of those fights, but the fact that he was undefeated, especially against the likes of a Fury, and especially the likes overall some of those guys, I think that it does not do much. But yeah, remember the commentator blitz tactic? He also had the funniest comments. Yeah, I remember him. Yeah, I had a lot of crazy commenters during my days. But anyways, guys, I think that is about it, man. Thank you so much. I'll be doing more videos. I'll probably try to do an O'Shaquie Foster versus Raymond Ford video. But let me know what you guys think. Thank you for paying attention to the live. That pretty much is about it for today. We went at this for about 3.5 hours. Love you all. Thank you for the support. And thank you for commenting on the live and the videos. Soon, more videos soon to come. But anyways, I'll talk to y'all later. And Tiffany Cook, see you later, miss. Thank you for commenting. Now I know. All right, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye-bye for now.